Right, folks, this is a new podcast from the Two Mics, and I'm going to give you old energy boy, MG, to introduce it.
Yeah, we've edited out all the nonsense from Mike Porky Parry, so it might be a bit shorter than usual.
Ha, 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 ha.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Hawksby and Jacobs can't be with us for 2 weeks. For legal reasons. So Mike Parry and Mike Graham are filling in instead.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mics, and we're holding the fort for Hawksby and Jacobs for another week. Amazing tales from the weekend coming up, including why Porky went on a 50-mile round trip just to appear on TV for 3 minutes this morning. I'll be describing my trip to Enchanted Forest yesterday, while my broadcasting partner was on a pub crawl on the south coast. Plus, we'll be talking Manchester football with Jamie Jackson from The Guardian, and if that's not enough, there's some crucial live championship football between Brighton and Derby, and plus it's another edition of Winners and Losers as well. 08717 223344. You're listening to Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on TalkSport. Well, a very good afternoon to you, Mr. Parry. You must be exhausted from your earlier travails of the morning. Do I need to talk us through what you did?
No, not at all.
What did you do earlier?
No. First of all, I'd like to make a complaint, please, to you in particular.
Me?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I left here on Friday, what time is it? 4 o'clock.
That's when the show ends.
That's right.
Yeah.
Friday, 4 o'clock. In perfect health. And looking forward to a great weekend, walking a bit on the south coast, taking in the fresh air and all that kind of stuff. I've now got a cold. Where could I have got a cold from?
Well, you probably got it from travelling on the train.
No, I didn't.
Why not?
I haven't travelled on a train all over the weekend.
Well, when do you think you get a cold, and how long do you think it sort of incubates in your system for?
Do
you think it's instantaneous?
There was a revolting person on the train last Wednesday. No, there was.
Well,
who was sniffling and
that may have
coughing.
been it.
And I turned my back on him and tried to
Was that the guy with the rucksack?
He might have had a rucksack. He looked like a rucksacker to me. And I tried to sort of protect myself from the filthy germs he was breathing out. In a situation like that, it surprises me that the ordinary passenger doesn't have the right to pull the communication cord.
What, and have them ejected? Well,
have the man thrown off the train.
You can't.
Because what he's doing is...
Mask?
Hey?
Why don't you just wear a mask? A lot of people would be very grateful for that.
You should wear a mask.
In fact, some people have said they wish you'd worn a mask this morning when you were on Sky.
Well, we'll get round to that in a minute, thank you. Your envy and your malice and you wear with all bitterness towards the flourishing of my career is so obvious to everybody.
The flourishing of your career.
But anyway, listen. So if you think about it, if you pull the communication cord and then stop at the next station, get the guy off.
Do they still have a communication cord?
Well, it's the same sort of thing. I think you smash the glass with your elbow or something, don't you?
I don't think they actually have a cord anymore.
No, I think there's a chain inside the window.
No, I think, is it not something that you just switch?
No, I think it's something on that. Anyway, point of my story is that would have saved maybe 40 people from now suffering the symptoms I'm suffering, if that's where I got it from. But...
Well, you may have done.
I believe the incubation period is 36 hours, so that would have taken me to Friday lunchtime.
It could be as long as
By
2
Friday
weeks.
lunchtime...
It could be as long as 2 weeks.
Anyway, I mean, the point I want to put to
it's not very healthy.
To our millions of listeners is this. You could stand outside in minus 10 temperatures and spray yourself with a hose of freezing water for 1 hour and you still wouldn't get a cold, because that's not where you get colds from.
Well, a cold is nothing to do with actually being cold, necessarily.
Cold's a virus. Yeah. Cold's a virus, that's what I'm telling you. So
you may have picked it up in a restaurant, for all you know. There may have been somebody in a restaurant that had a virus.
No, I don't go into virus-ridden restaurants. Honestly, don't worry about that.
We were in a restaurant on Friday night.
We were, yes, but it's a very nice restaurant.
Remember who else was in there?
Ian McKellen.
That's right.
He's the actor, isn't he?
He certainly is an actor.
Now, what was the last famous thing he was in?
Well, he does all the Lord of the Rings films.
Lord of the Rings and all that, yeah. He's brilliant.
My kids told me he's also appeared in a couple of Harry Potters as well.
Harry Potters and all that kind of stuff. Now, here, let me tell you exactly what my thinking was, okay?
What was it?
Well, he was about 3 tables away, wasn't he? And I thought, no, in the world am I going to, bother a giant of the stage like that, stage and screen.
He was thinking exactly the same thing about you.
He probably was, yeah. But, I sort of thought about this later. Then on Saturday morning, that's the morning after... I don't know why, but the Times newspaper is still taking out extracts from the Sunday Times rich list that they published 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And they published his wealth. He's worth 43 million quid, according to them.
Who, Ian McKellen is?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So I wish I had gone over.
Why? Well, you've asked him for some money.
No, but I'd have tried to get him interested in investing in my next great project, which is a business opportunity. Well, it is, yeah.
What is your next great project?
I'll tell you about it at some stage.
You haven't mentioned it to me yet.
I'll tell you about it at some stage.
Successful in your internet TV station.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
How did
That's
that
nice.
go?
Sorry?
Bankrupted, was it?
So, no.
You sure?
No, it's we decided to realign it. That's all.
No, okay.
Now then, what I want to say to you was,
Go on.
why are you taking the mickey out of me because I made an appearance on what I can only describe as a global news station this morning?
Well, how long were you on for, first of all?
Oh,
You can say in minutes if you wish.
No.
Or fractions of an hour.
No, from the time I entered the studio complex.
How long were you on screen for?
From the time I entered the studio complex to the time I left the the building.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say an hour, something like that.
So you were there for an hour?
Oh, yes.
How long were you on screen for?
Well, I think from the time that I got into makeup.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Were you wearing makeup?
Advice. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I had a bit of makeup.
You look
yeah.
horrendous.
What do you mean?
People said you looked like you
Damn
just
it,
literally
ridiculous.
walked in off the street. You had
yeah.
a blue shirt which was buttoned halfway down your torso.
No.
Your hair was all over the place.
No.
Was that after they dealt with you? What did you look like when you arrived?
No, I think you have to understand, Mike, that if you work in television, you need to know about colour coordination in your clothes.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, you can pixelate the camera, which is not a good thing to
I
do,
see,
okay?
right. And what were you talking about? What was the moment of expertise?
I was talking about what the position regarding Leicester. How magnificent is it? What they wanted, really, you see, was not a great sort of football writer, not a great guy who had huge experience of going to football matches. They wanted a wordsmith to explain the magnificence of what's happened.
Couldn't get one.
And I'm just going to ignore that cheap jibe. And that is exactly...
Well, all I'm reacting to... I didn't watch it, of course, because I had better things to do.
Oh, really?
But, I mean, all I'm reacting to is the coverage of it on Twitter.
What were the better things you had to do?
I was washing my hair.
Bottles,
I was washing my hair.
Collect the bottles from your weekend bladderation session.
No, I was washing my hair.
Yeah.
I couldn't be bothered. I spend 5 days a week with you. I don't want to watch you on television before we get in. But people were saying things like, here's one from Iron Lion.
Yes.
Porky looks like an old woman with a beard.
What?
Feminine, round-faced plank. Other people were saying...
Well, everybody's got a round face, you fool.
Yeah, well, yours is more round than other. Here's another one from Brian. He says, why didn't Sky News give Porky a booster seat so he could see over the desk?
That's very funny, yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of praise coming in, it has to be said.
I'm very average height.
Steve says, looked like you had a wig on.
5'8" and 3/4. Of course I didn't have a wig on. I mean, honestly...
Brian, other people have been saying, it's cruel to everyone to put Porky on TV before the watershed. One guy said his 5-year-old's still in
would
tears.
you like me to read out...
My 5-year-old can't stop crying.
Would you like me to read out nearly 200 or 300, 400, depends on what time I look at my information device,
Yeah.
contribute,
Why don't you just read out one or two?
What?
Why don't you just read out one or two?
There's so many of them. There's so many of them.
Give us one, then.
There's one funny one here. It says, Sky News... New report. The sacked makeup artist and hairdresser who dealt with Porky this morning have won their unfair dismissal case. That's a bit harsh,
Is that the best one you could find?
No, it's not the best one I can find. It's the funniest one I could find.
Now, anyway, we've got lots to talk about because
have.
we've got Darren Lewis coming on. Jamie Vardy, of course, won the PFA Player of the Year award.
Yeah, brilliant.
You voted for him.
I did vote for him.
Although you told me 2 weeks ago that you were kind of humming and hawing because you weren't sure you were going to vote for him. You might have voted for somebody else.
No, to be honest, I must have given the wrong impression. I always said I would vote for Jamie Vardy. And, the way the boy has come to the absolute pinnacle of Premier League football from such humble beginnings, Fleetwood Town, which is near Morecambe, and Blackpool on the northwest Fylde coast, then I have to just say that I think he's been magnificent, and I was never going to opt for anybody else.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're happy to be in the majority on this one?
Oh yeah, very happy. But I think. Although, you say happy to be in the majority, I'm not.
Well, you normally like to stand out, don't you?
No. I'm not a bandwagon jumper here.
Well, it looks like it.
I made it clear. Months ago, when I met a couple of friends from, the ultra professional football writing.
Why are you in that anyway?
Eh?
Why are you even in the PFA?
Well, I'm in the PFA.
Yeah.
Well, it's called the Football Writers Association.
Football Writers Association.
Yeah, FWA.
Yeah. Why are you even in it?
Because I'm a distinguished...
When was the last time you wrote anything about football?
I think you're a bit behind there, Mike. We don't write these days. We speak. And
but why are you not in the Professional Speakers Association?
No, distinguished members of the media now, of the football media, are sometimes invited to join. When did you turn your invitation down, by the way?
I've never been involved in it.
Oh, you've never been invited?
Because I don't write about football. I've never read about football.
No, you don't have to write about football. You have to just, have something sensible to say about it.
Is that right?
Yeah. I've been a member...
Well, why is it called the Writers Association, then?
Well, because historically
I'm going to ask Darren Lewis, because he'll know, won't he?
Historically, it always was. It goes right the way back... I think it was formed in 1948, and I think Stanley Matthews was the first winner of it.
Stanley Matthews.
Stanley Matthews, yeah. Goes back
but in
a
those
long
days
way.
it was put together by all the people that wrote.
Yeah, well, they don't... Yeah, but obviously the world's developed. You've now got people who write, you've got people who speak on radio, you've got people who are visually on television, you've got people who write blogs, they write on the internet.
So you get in it for writing a blog?
Website. Well, I don't know if you're invited in. Only the best are invited in, you see. That's why Darren Lewis is a member, that's why I'm a member.
Well, he's a football writer.
That's why
Darren Lewis is a
football
football writer.
The closest you'd ever get, mate, to the Football Writers Association is serving me my sirloin steak on the night of the FWA, the Football Writers Association annual dinner, which is always on the Thursday before the FA Cup final.
OK, are you going?
No.
This is
What's your problem?
This is the two mics in for Hawksby and Jacobs on TalkSport with Papa John's, who are giving you the chance to win €1 million. Go to amillionfans.com and sign up for your chance to win. It's also winners and losers coming up a little bit later. I hope you put some work in on that over the weekend, have you?
Of course.
Excellent. I've got some stories to tell you about what I got up to over the weekend. But let's
Excellent.
talk to Darren Lewis, though,
Indeed.
a man who is, by all accounts, a very leading light of the Football Writers Association. And why not, since he is indeed a football writer, unlike you. Darren, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you both.
Porky's been explaining to me how anyone can be in the Football Writers Association, even if they don't write about football. Is that right?
Well, yes. I mean, Porky Mike knows all about how these things work, and these are the days where our feelings about what has gone on over the preceding 9 months all come out, and as you've seen today, that Jamie Vardy is the popular choice.
Was there any serious rival to him at all?
Yes, there was. We all know that Riyad Mahrez and in particular N'Golo Kante were very, very serious rivals. Kante in particular, because he's had a fabulous season. And Vardy is actually a controversial choice to win the award because we know about the incident off the field that has really turned people off him. And a lot of people think, why should somebody who's behaved in that manner receive the award? So I don't want to come on and sort of gloss over that because that is a very, very important element of many people's decision-making process. I don't subscribe to that point of view, I have to say. I think...
You don't care what he does off the field?
Well, I'm writing about something at the moment, and I think, listen, if we were to judge some of these footballers as men, Luis Suarez would never have won it. Wayne Rooney wouldn't have won it.
Did Ryan Giggs win it, Darren?
Ryan Giggs...
He did, didn't he?
He did.
He did.
May have
he did.
Done.
And
yes,
I mean,
I'm trying to remember what year.
Yeah, but he's hit a few headlines this morning because I totally agree with you. I think you have to say they're being judged on their football.
Suarez was in trouble for what he did on the pitch. Though.
Yes, he was.
Not off the pitch.
He was. Well, that's a judgment of the football writers.
Surely that's a different thing.
No, but Darren said about Vardy in particular, who's now won it, that there was an issue off the pitch, which may have influenced the way people voted. Can I ask you one thing, Darren? Although you say, we must take a note of what happened on the pitch, why are us, the Football Writers Association, so reluctant to cast our vote for overseas players? Aguero's never won that award, and he should have done, shouldn't he?
I think you're right. Didier Drogba never won the award.
That's right.
And I think that is a really good point. But I think in a lot of cases, it's hard to argue with the people that have gone on to win the award. I think you are absolutely right. There are lots of players, and I was quite staggered when I found out in all the time that Drogba had been there. He hadn't really had the credit he had deserved. I don't think there is a specific reason for that. I mean, I go back to the Jamie Vardy thing because I think as far as Vardy is... I know from talking to a lot of my colleagues that Kante is the man that they would have voted for. But other people do recognise the fact that Vardy... I think Vardy is probably the greatest story I can remember for many years, coming from so far outside the football pyramid.
Absolutely. Self-advancement from Fleetwood to the pinnacle of the Premier League, it's unheard of.
And to England as well.
And to England,
absolutely. And the thing about it is, at every level, he's been doubted. people believed he couldn't do it. And then halfway through the season, people said, well, let's see if he can do it against a big team. So he scored against United and he scored against Chelsea. Then people said, could he do Jamie Vardy for England? Don't make me laugh. And then he scores against the world champions and against Holland. I mean, this is the guy who he doesn't score consolation goals. He doesn't score sort of the third goal after someone else has done the hard work. He's a game changer. He scores. It makes the breakthrough. He gets one chance, bang, goal. He scores great goals. He's a poacher. I think you could argue that record-breaking run that he went on during the first half of the season, that gave Leicester momentum. And that played a key role in them going on to do what they've done over the second half of the season. So I do think that he should get it. And I do think in this whole debate about whether or not he should win it, if you're talking about players, you have to look at them as players and not as men. Because if you look at them as men, we probably wouldn't have any candidates for the football.
I totally agree. Now, Darren, as we've got you on the phone, you are a leading light of the football writers, but also...
I said that already.
I can't claim to be that.
Well, anyway, a very distinguished member of the Fleet Street...
Was false modesty
hang on, of the Fleet Street Press. I thought it was so interesting to hear the man who's going to become the manager of the Premier League champions very, very soon, if not tonight, then by the weekend, claiming that he won't know the result of the game when he gets off the airplane tonight. Now,
of course he won't.
When I last checked, there were 28 Fleet Street journalists booked on the same flight as him back from Rome, so I thought they might give him a little tip on the way over about how the scoreline's going.
I think you're right. Listen, the football managers say that all the time. I find that incredibly hard to believe because even if he tries not to find out, there will be people everywhere. The pilot will probably tell him.
Exactly.
There will be people everywhere. As soon as he gets off a plane...
The pilot might divert over a bit of London that he's not supposed to be flying over and look out the left window, it's all happening down there.
Yeah, they could project it up onto the roof of the O2 or something,
exactly, yeah.
I mean, I think what Ron Ranier is basically trying to do is what he's done all the way through is project that image of, I'm not bothered. It's only what we do. We are the masters of our own destiny. And he's absolutely right. And they have proven that they can take control of their own destiny. Yeah. I didn't think they'd win yesterday. United got a fabulous home record. Only City got a better home record for all the problems that Van Gaal has had. He'd won his previous 6 at home, and they are very, very decent in front of their own fans in terms of getting result, not the style of play. Let me point that out. But I still do think Leicester will go on to complete it. And
I totally
it will be absolutely well-deserved because they've been fabulous this season.
Well, Danny Drinkwater's not going to face any further action following his sending off, so he misses the next game against Everton, though, of course. And
that's the one they'll probably win it at,
well, that's what everyone's saying. But I just wonder whether there's a little bit of doubt. I mean, I don't imagine Tottenham are going to win tonight, but if they were to, you might just see a little bit of nerves creeping in against Everton, wouldn't you, Darren?
I say no, and the reason for it, so many times people have believed that they would crumble under pressure, but I spoke to Jamie Vardy after they won at Watford, and he said, we really aren't that bothered. We see it all, but I think at that time, he said, we'd asked him if he had seen Tottenham play the previous day, and he said, no, I was playing on my Xbox. I wasn't bothered. Yeah. And he says, look, as far as we're concerned, and you have to really look at Everton because, as you will know, Mike, they've been very inconsistent so far this season. Yes, good win yesterday, but the reason that Martinez is under pressure is that they don't have that consistency, and defensively they are very average at the moment.
Well, they shouldn't be, should they? They shouldn't be. They've got some good defenders, so I totally agree with that.
They're also better away from home than they are at home, aren't they?
Better away from home. And the thing is, Darren, if it happens on Saturday, and actually, with my heart sort of, filled up full of emotion for footballers, it should really happen at home to them on Saturday, shouldn't it? That would be it. The one thing that I'm going to hate is being an Everton man, because there's nothing like being the also-rans when the team you're lined up against is just about to lift the trophy. Everton suffered that against Tony Adams in Arsenal's second double year, and it's not pleasant, believe me.
Well, I think as far as Leicester are concerned, it would be fitting for them to win it in front of their own fans because they've been superb all season. They probably can't believe what's happened to them over the course of this season. But it would be fitting for it to happen at the King Power Stadium, where so many people have worked so hard behind the scenes as well as the guys on the pitch. And I think, everyone will be delighted for that. It would have been great yesterday at the Theatre of Dreams, stuff of fantasy. It would have been fantastic for the headline writers and whatever else. But to do it at the King Power, where they've had so many anxieties over the course of the last season around about this time around, it's very, very different and very, very well deserved.
OK, great. Darren, thank you very much indeed, and many, many more years of being the leading light of the Football Writers Association, and we'll speak to you very, very soon.
Man's a top professional.
Of course he is, very much so. I used to
can't
work
say
with
that
him,
about you.
Well, I used to work with him at the Mirror, actually.
Yes.
Where you didn't work.
Yes, OK, but I mean, I can tell you this. You had no influence whatsoever on the boy's growth as a football writer and as a professional
you can say that,
sports journalist. You had no impact on him whatsoever.
You can say that if you wish.
At least the great soccer writers, football writers...
Soccer?
If you want, football writers I worked with, I helped them improve their careers. Ask some of them. Yeah. Ask Martin Lipton how I helped him.
I've asked many of them about you.
Ask Sean Custis how I helped him.
Most of them say what a horrible, ghastly boss.
Ask Henry Winter what I did for him.
Never mind
Ask Henry Winter, he'll tell you.
Yeah, I will ask him. I have asked him.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
Hawksby and Jacobs on Talk Sport with Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza.
This afternoon, thanks to Papa John's, you have not one but 3 chances to win a slice of £300 in cash. Every hour, we'll be asking £1 million themed questions. All you need to do is text the correct answer and you could win £100 in cash.
That's absolutely right. Now, the question today is this. Alan Border notched the 1,000th test run in 1986 whilst battling...
Battling?
No. He was batting, actually. Let me start again.
Yeah, try again.
Alan Border notched the 1,000th test run in 1986 whilst batting for which country? Was it A, Australia, or was it B, South Africa?
Well done. Text the word team, followed by A for Australia or B for South Africa to 81089 before 1:45, so in the next 10 minutes. Text will cost 50p and standard network charges apply. Visit talksport.com for our full terms and conditions.
Hawksby and Jacobs on Talk Sport with Papa John's. Sign up now for your chance to win €1 million at www.amillionfans.com. 18 plus, terms and conditions apply.
Now, lots of very, very exciting games coming up today. We've got 2 in the Championship. Brighton versus Derby kicks off at 2:30. Elliot Cook is there with some team news. Elliot.
Yes, good afternoon. The start of a week which will define Brighton's season. An amazing campaign will have a fairy tale finish for Chris Hughton's side. If they win at Middlesbrough on Saturday, regardless of today's result, the prize of promotion would be theirs. Who'd have thought it? They will make it easier for themselves if they can beat Derby. That will leave them needing just a point at Fortress Riverside. Should they fail in their goal of automatic promotion, then it's the playoffs, and who knows, these two sides could meet again. Derby's place in the playoffs is assured, but they have something to play for this afternoon. Darren Wattle's side could still finish 4th and earn home advantage in the playoff semi-finals second leg. Brighton are unchanged from the side that won at Charlton 9 days ago. One change for the visitors. George Thorne, who has recovered from illness, replaces Jacob Butterfield in midfield. Butterfield is on the bench. At the Amex, it's Brighton against Derby.
Thanks very much indeed, Elliot. We'll be checking in with Elliot throughout the afternoon and, of course, letting you know the goals as they go in. Tonight, of course, it's Chelsea against Spurs.
Yeah.
If Spurs fail to win, Leicester will become champions,
which
would be extraordinary. Do you think that's going to happen?
I think it'll be a draw tonight.
So that means Leicester will be champions?
That means Leicester will be champions.
Yeah.
And the reason I think it'll be a draw is even when Manchester United opened the scoring in Sunday's game, Sunday 2 o'clock, wasn't it?
It was,
5 past 2. I always knew that Leicester would respond. Leicester, to me, have been a real team in the sense that, you know, it wasn't just luck ever since they won 3-1 at Manchester City, because that was an astonishing game, an astonishing result. And that's when everybody suddenly had to start thinking again about...
Well, they've only lost 3 games the whole season,
exactly.
But I think I'm right in saying that the commentator said that they'd gone behind in games 11 times.
Yeah, that's right.
They've come back and won most of them.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't seem to bother them whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a draw, and I think it'll all be over. I mean, when we were talking to Darren... if you have ever seen your team get the last points they needed to win the championship at home, it's a life-changing experience. And so, whilst you can't manipulate the way things work, and I don't suppose I want Leicester to lose or anything like that, If they had to win against Everton at home on Saturday, I would not begrudge Leicester a moment of that, and they would beat Everton and take the Premier League, because that seriously would be a mind-changing experience for all Leicester fans in the stadium.
It would.
As it is now.
And for all the people that have now become Leicester fans that are travelling from all over the world to come and see it, because apparently the atmosphere will be incredible, won't it?
Well, the whole city will be abuzz. But what I'm saying is there's a big difference between the stress and the tension of needing to wait 90 minutes to see if your team's going to win to clinch that Premier League title, and applauding the team as they come out onto the pitch because they're already champions, and then going through a really sort of facile sort of a game in which the other 11 players from Everton are really just making up the numbers, and then at the end you wait for them to run round the edge with the trophy.
Well, that's why Claudio Ranieri's doing the right thing. I wonder if he could have gone and seen his mother for lunch any time, but the idea of actually being in the air while the game was on was something that was very attractive to him.
Well, do you remember... I've got my facts almost right here. When Brian Clough won his first league title with Derby, his team were literally on the beach in Mallorca, because that night was it Leeds and... Was it Leeds and Wolves, was it?
I don't know.
Who played?
My memory of that
or
time,
Leeds and West Brom or something like that. But anyway, they'd finished their campaign, and I'm pretty sure it was Leeds who had to get a victory that night. They didn't get a victory, and I don't know if they watched it on television in Mallorca, but they were in Mallorca, and that's how they won it. They won it on the beach, literally.
Right.
And I suppose there is a magic charm to the way football... deals its cards.
They wouldn't be able to watch it on the beach back then, would they?
Well, I think
TV was not quite what it is now.
Well, I think they were in a hotel on the beach, if you see what I mean. I think that,
Well, no, I mean that, but even in a hotel, in a foreign land,
it'd be very...
back then, you wouldn't have had live football on.
I think you're right. It'd be very unlikely you could see a game in England in a bar in Spain in the 70s. Yeah, no, right. I suppose you're absolutely right.
See, Everton managed to get a decent result the weekend.
Of course.
Must have pleased you.
Well,
first one for a while.
Yes, but of course the team we were playing are in the FA Cup final, and I wish we were. So if you
Who were you playing?
Sorry?
Who were you playing?
Crystal Palace.
No, you weren't. Newcastle beat Crystal Palace.
What?
Newcastle beat Crystal Palace.
We played
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, that's right. Yes.
They're not in the FA Cup final. What on earth is wrong with you?
I don't know what's wrong with me.
This TV appearance. Were you sitting under some gamma rays or something while you were in the Sky Studios? Dear God.
I think I must have
Do you
been,
remember where you watched the game?
Which game?
The game about Everton-Bournemouth. Do you remember where you were?
No.
See, the trouble with you is you spend all weekend putting out tweets about me drinking. When in fact I'm with my kids. I was in an enchanted forest with them yesterday, looking at bluebells.
Everton-Bournemouth wasn't a live game.
Well, so where were you watching it then?
What do you mean, where was I keeping in touch with it?
Yeah.
I was on the south coast, actually.
On the south coast?
Yes, that's right, down there.
In a pub?
What?
In a pub?
No, I wasn't in a pub. No, seriously, quite seriously, I wasn't in a pub. If I was in a pub, I could know now where I caught my cold. I caught my cold from you. Yeah, of course we're playing Bournemouth, but you've got to remember that was only our fourth home victory of the whole season. So it was a bit hard to bear.
Yeah, it's not very good, though, is it,
no,
really?
It's not, no. I totally agree.
Absolutely shocking. Your memory is ridiculous.
You
remember what happened between when Derby won the league under Brian Clough?
Yes.
But you can't remember who Everton played at the weekend?
I do now. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Shocking. Absolutely ridiculous. We're going to talk about traffic lights, one of your big bugbears coming up. Yeah. Andy J from Talk Radio is going to be joining us next here on Talk Sport.
Good.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, and Mr. Parry, I was going to ask you earlier about how long it took you to get over to Sky Studios and back to Surrey,
because
you
long.
did 50-mile round trip for that 2 minute appearance?
I don't. It's 50 miles.
Well,
but
it must be 50 miles.
It may be.
Around the M25.
What county is Isleworth in?
Well, it's Middlesex, isn't
Middlesex, that's right.
It's out by Heathrow.
Yes, that's right.
So you would have gone around the M25.
No, I didn't. No,
no,
I went across country, and this is the point. That's why there were so many traffic lights.
Across country.
Yeah. So from where I was at Epsom, right? Yeah. What you do is you go not to bore the audience.
Yeah, don't tell us
London.
The whole route.
Well, no. But you sort of go down the A3, you go to Esher, and you turn right at Esher, you go past Hampton Court, you know, King Henry VIII's Palace. You go through a place called Bushy Park, right? You come out on the other side, you're in Twickenham. And then from Twickenham, you go across the main road, the A40, and you're in Ellsworth, where Sky is, right?
And how long did that take you?
That took about 50 minutes going there.
50.
But the traffic lights are just horrendous.
Right. But this is on a bank holiday Monday.
It's on a bank holiday Monday.
So if it was on a normal day, it would have taken you 2 hours. Probably.
Oh, over 2 hours. It would have taken over 2 hours. Thank God there was no ordinary traffic around. But the thing is, look, I'm not the only person now who will be delighted to say that a new study has found the soaring number of traffic lights, right, and confusing road signs means that anywhere in this country you're stopped every 6 miles on average by a traffic light.
Yeah.
In Greater London, or in Surrey, or in Greater Manchester, or in Merseyside, or Northumberland, or Tyne and Wear, you're stopped about every 60 yards.
Yeah.
It is outrageous.
It is ridiculous. Well, let's talk to Andy J, who's on Talk Radio, of course. He's our motoring specialist.
Yeah.
Andy, a very good afternoon to you.
Hello, guys. Enjoying the show. How are you doing?
Yeah,
very well, thank you.
Very well. Is it true to say that more traffic lights are appearing now than ever before? I mean, or does it just seem like that?
Well, the statistics back that up. 66% rise since 2000.
Outrageous.
Which is just mental when you think about it. But I think this is a story where actually the statistics really don't matter, because we all know what it's like sitting in the horror of our car stuck on a light for no reason. I mean, it's just infuriating, isn't it? And this is one of the things where actually it's quite nice that such a substantial study has been made. And what they've done is they haven't focused on the nightmare for us drivers, which we all experience. They've actually focused on the economy, which gives their argument great weight to potentially do something about it. Because I think if someone went and did a study like this that was, say, for example, an insurance group that was just trying to say, oh, come on, look, everyone's lives are really hard in their car and isn't that tough, then, it would just be quite an empty and hollow study. Whereas this is a study by the British Infrastructure Group of MPs and peers, and they are saying, listen, these pointless and ridiculous controlled junctions that are happening everywhere now are costing our economy a staggering amount of money because of the delayed journey.
It's 16 billion. 16 billion a year is the figure that they actually put up there, Andy. I mean, that is a very substantial dent in the efficiency of this country. And another reason, Andy, because I've read the same report as you, is there's a hint within that these traffic lights are being installed by what's called the anti-car attitude of many local authorities. Now, why the anti-car? I've no idea, considering that cars and car drivers produce so much revenue for the economy. Is this all to do with, a newfound sort of almost messianic hatred of the car because it drives on petrol?
Well, you'll have to tell me that, because, we have stopped rewarding electric cars like we used to as well, which, sort of counters that slightly. When electric cars first came in, there were all these great benefits and all these charging stations and all the money back you would get for investing in an electric car, which is something that I thoroughly approve of, incidentally. But, traffic jams make no difference whether you're in an electric car or a petrol car, whether you're running on water, fumes or batteries. It's, we're all stuck in the same thing, and it's costing the economy. I mean, that 16 billion is a staggering sum of money, but actually to put it into individual terms, they're saying that's £514 per registered car in the UK, which is astonishing.
Yes.
But what they've also done now is they've kind of, they've broken up further the traffic light system, right? So Mike was saying this earlier, that people actually get now so confused, certainly in certain sort of filter systems that you see in London these days. You don't know which way you're supposed to go. The main traffic light, which is meant to be fully sort of round and green, is just a little arrow. They've got little green arrows for cyclists that go off like 2 seconds
They've got
before.
Pictures of little bikes in green,
and they go
red.
off like 10. And I mean, there's so many lights and signs and signals and all the things that you've got to keep an eye on that you don't actually know what you're looking at.
You've also got what I describe as sort of the unfair traffic light lottery, which is where you're stuck at a set of traffic lights and you seem to be on the set of lights that lets about 2 cars through, and yet in the other direction it's letting about 20 or 30 through.
I set a right filter light right near London Bridge the other day, and it was red for such a long time that I thought it was broken. And eventually, because 2 lots of other sets of lights had changed twice, eventually I just waited till there was no traffic and I turned right. Because I thought the traffic light was broken.
I think you have to. Andy, get this for me, please. In Ashford in Kent, traffic lights were removed in 2008. The road layout was simplified and accident rates fell by 41%. Now, I know why...
You've been to Ashford?
No.
Because I have. There's nothing simple about the traffic system in Ashford.
I know why that happens, Andy. That happens because if I'm driving home late at night in London, I've got to watch for traffic lights. I've got to watch whether or not I should be in this bus lane, because it's a 24-hour bus lane and a camera might take a picture of me. I've got to watch I'm not in a cycle lane. I've got to watch...
in that little box in front of the traffic lights.
I've got to watch I'm not in a yellow box. I've got to watch I'm not exceeding the speed limit. I think all of that distraction to any driver at any time of the day means you're not actually concentrating on what you're doing, and that's having your foot on the accelerator and the brake.
I think that's a very valid point. And, I think all of us would like to see a significant reduction. I mean, I think one of the things that this has called for, which makes a lot of sense, is turning the lights off at certain times, not necessarily in peak times. I fully understand why we would need traffic lights around children's schools when it's school out time.
Yeah, of course.
All for that. Absolutely fair enough. But, one of the things that the argument is suggesting is, well, no one's going to school at 2 a.m. Turn the lights off then.
And what about the system they have in parts of America? Not so much in New York City, but in loads of parts of America where they have very, very busy junctions during the day. But at night time, the light changes to a flashing red light, which means that you can stop. But if there's nobody coming, you can just go.
Beware, yeah.
Yeah.
We should introduce something like that. In India, they've got hardly any traffic lights, Andy, and they don't have traffic jams.
I don't think we want to start copying the way that the Indians drive.
Well, have you ever tried driving in India before?
Well, they don't even have a highway code, I'm told. But I mean, that's
not easy.
That's irrelevant. But I tell you what's going to happen one of these days, and I would know in no way would I encourage this. But in the same way as we thought at one time, and still are, being unfairly treated by flashing speed cameras, and people started setting fire to them and throwing paint over and all that kind of stuff, within a very short period of time, you'll have people going out with chainsaws trying to cut these traffic lights down. And that's not something I would encourage or
Why are you mentioning it then?
Well, I'm saying because what happens is, if you're treated unfairly by those you vote into power, then there's always a rebellion,
Really?
What I'm saying is the frustration factor of the motorist, Andy, is reaching boiling point because we seem to stop, start. It drives you nuts.
Indeed. And something like 32% of us have actually admitted to deliberately going through a red. If you think that's 32% are admitting it, I would suggest that it's probably double that have done it.
But that's the frustration that makes people do it, because you sit in a traffic jam and, as you say, 2 cars go through every time it turns green.
Yeah.
You can be 2 cars back. Turns green, you still can't get through.
No, that's absolutely right. I would actually never drive through a red light because of the fear of causing an accident, in which someone would be hurt or something like that. I know.
But a lot of people do it literally at 5 miles an hour because the traffic's moving so slowly.
I know I sound like, like I've got a halo around my head, but I don't.
No, you don't, actually.
And for that reason, I feel more angry than most because I'm not prepared to break the law. Those that break the law just have a, contempt for the law. They don't mind. Law-abiding people like me are the ones who suffer.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Andy, when's your show on next on Talk Radio?
You can next hear us at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon.
Excellent. OK, we'll look forward to that. Thanks very much indeed. Andy J, Talk Radio's motoring presenter. You can hear him on Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. We've got lots more to do. Coming up in the next hour, Jamie Jackson's going to join us with a look at what's going on at Old Trafford and also at Manchester City as well. A terrible result of the weekend. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the 2 mics. Coming up in this hour, we'll be talking to Jamie Jackson about what's going on in Manchester, because Lee Van Gaal came out and said basically that he's still going to be around. This was after his rather unusual comment about the hair pulling episode, which I presume you might have remarked upon.
Well, I didn't remark on it, but I mean, it was...
very odd thing to say.
Well, it's an extremely odd thing to say. It almost kind of suggests that might have been a topic of conversation elsewhere.
Somewhere in the Lee Van Gaal household.
Well, no. But I mean, I don't know, within the circles of football or something like that. But it's a very odd thing to say. I'd never heard of it. Had you?
Sex masochism?
No.
Well, you never heard of sex masochism?
Well, no, not really.
I don't particularly want to have a long conversation about it.
No, neither do I. But I mean, when
How can you not have heard of it?
Well, because I haven't. I've never
You've led a very sheltered life.
Well, I've never, all the journals I get, which study things like, scientific advancement and geographical trends and all that kind of stuff, they don't really concentrate on S&M, which I think is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, exactly.
You can get journals on it, of course, if you wish to contribute to it further.
Well, yes, I know, but you can watch things you shouldn't watch if you, look far enough on the internet and all that kind of stuff. Not the sort of thing I spend my time doing.
No, but more interestingly, from our point of view, right, he did say that he was going to be here next year, and he was going to fulfil the 3rd year of his contract because in the beginning, apparently they only wanted to hire him for he only wanted to stay for 2 years, but they insisted that he stay for 3.
That's right.
So that puts more doubt, does it not, on your assertion that Jose Mourinho is definitely going to be there?
Well, I think he is. I read 2 very interesting pieces in what we call the heavy papers over the Saturday-Sunday weekend, OK?
Yes.
And I'm trying to put all the pieces of the jigsaw together, but one of them said, for the first time, Manchester United have now agreed to sit down, representative to representative, to discuss Louis Hal's future.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I read a piece which said that one of the reasons that there has not been a definitive and established announcement about Jose Mourinho taking over Manchester United is not just because there has been some... I don't know.
Some hold up to it.
Well, no, not there's just been some doubt on the Manchester United side about what they're going to do at the end of the season, but seems to have been a great deal of concern on Jose Mourinho's side through his agent, Jorge Mendes, about how much complete control he'll have over team affairs, i.e., we do not want a director of football, i.e. must have total control over transfers.
So he gets to buy all the players, he gets to sell all the players.
Absolutely. And apparently, if you think it's just Manchester United prevaricating, it's not. And those are reports I've read. I mean, you can read a million reports, can't you? But at the end of the day, I still have to say, from, again, trying to put the piece of the jigsaw together, I believe that Jose Mourinho will go to Manchester United, and I can't work out one reason why he wouldn't, because he's the best current coach in the world, stroke manager in the world.
All right, well, we'll find out from Jamie Jackson what's being said at Old Trafford over the next sort of 24 hours, what's likely to be being said as well.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the Champions League with Manchester City this week as well, which you'll hear right here live on TalkSport.
Indeed.
Do you know what else is happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah.
I'm very excited to learn. Yeah, come on.
School's out for 30,000 children. This is the first front page of the New Day. 30,000 kids are not going to go to school.
Why?
Because they're going to boycott their stressful SAT exams from the age of 6, which they say are very, very unfair.
OK. What do you think as a parent?
Well, I don't think they should be stressed out at all. I think they should be quite... I mean, it seems to me that if you're going to take your kids out of school to take them on holiday, that would be one thing. But if you're going to take them out of school because you think they're getting stressed out because they're being asked to do an exam, very, very small, questions and give the right answers, it seems to be a bit ridiculous to me.
Does SAT stand for some sort of examination?
Standard aptitude test.
Right, OK. And what is that? What do you have to do?
Well, it's basically what they do is they give you a figure at the end so that you get either a 5 or a 4 or a 3 or a 3.2.
Aptitude is not necessarily sitting down and answering questions on the Battle of Trafalgar, is it?
Well, no, it's not.
What is it then?
Well, what it is they'll ask you some mathematical questions like what's 30 plus 46, that kind of thing. They'll say to you that there was an example of a question in one of the papers today, something about Amy has 4 rows of carrots. There's 3 carrots in each row, but a rabbit comes along and pinches 2 of the carrots. How many carrots has she got?
OK.
Can you answer that?
Who, me?
Yeah.
What, 4 3s are 12, minus 2 is 10?
Exactly. It's not difficult, is it?
Well, no, it's not difficult for me, but I mean,
I think a 6-year-old could manage that, to be honest.
Well, I've got a very high IQ, and I've been around for a long time. I had a great education. I went to the King's School, Chester. I would know all those things, OK? Yeah. But a child, maybe struggling in a...
Well, the point is what they're saying is they shouldn't be giving kids that young exams because they worry about it. But the kids don't worry about exams unless the parents make them worry. That would be my view. Yeah,
or unless the teachers make them worry, maybe.
Yeah, but I don't even think that's true. I mean,
sure?
kids don't really worry about things unless someone tells them to worry about them.
Yeah, but teachers are pretty... What's the word I'm looking for? Pretty militant, aren't they, in the way that they think education should be handled?
Well, a lot of the teachers are very happy that this is happening because they don't think the kids should be being tested at the age of 6
either. That's what I'm saying, because when the Education Secretary recently addressed not one but 2
very popular, Nicky
of the
Morgan,
education unions, doesn't seem to be... Well, yeah, but I've never known an education minister or a Home Secretary ever to be popular with groups of workers in this country represented by big union bodies. You know what I mean? Like health service, like teachers and all that kind of stuff. It's just a fact of life that they don't always see things the same way.
I've got a text here from a Wrong Star tweet rather. It says your favourite places should be a Mercedes showroom, the Locked Room, and Stockbroker Belt Surrey when Everton are playing at home.
Well, that's a very, very, very harsh indictment of my life. You've got to remember that I'm a basic man, a working man, and I stick up for those who can't stick up for themselves.
Now, how are you going to watch the Everton-Leicester game, by the way?
Everton Leicester.
That's next Saturday, isn't it?
It's 5:30, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been put back to 5:30.
So you'll be in Cardiff?
Why will I be in Cardiff?
Well, you're going to be doing a show in Cardiff next Saturday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, next Saturday night. It's a live
if you're not in Cardiff by 5:30, you're going to have a problem. Yeah.
Well, they do have televisions in Cardiff, actually.
Yes, they do.
So I don't see a problem.
So have you made plans to see it there? Is all I'm saying.
I will make a plan. That's not a problem. You know, that is Saturday's issue, which I will sort out. Now, the Tramshed show starts at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It does.
And the Everton game's 5:30, is this right?
Yeah.
Leicester Everton game, obviously. It's being shown live on TV. We will find a way of making sure we get that. Although, do you remember when we went to Manchester? Amazingly, in the hotel we were staying in, they did not have a single TV screen.
Because we wanted to watch the Grand National.
Yeah, which was going to show the Grand National. And the Grand National was not on any sort of cable or satellite or pay-for station.
No, so we had to go to a betting shop to watch it.
Went to a betting shop
Which
to
was
watch
fine.
it.
You didn't want to do that, though, did you?
Well, I didn't really.
You didn't fancy mixing with the hoi polloi.
No, it's not that. I thought we should have been able to watch it in the luxury of a 5-star hotel we were paying for, and I was rather put out that we didn't.
Well, you could have watched it in your room, I suppose.
Well, I suppose I could have done, but then you'd say, oh, you know, in my isolated locked room, watched it on my own.
Well, that's what you preferred.
I was trying to be sociable.
Did you make any money that day, by the way?
Yeah, I did. I made £90.
Did you?
Yeah, I put down £200 and won 290. Now, listen, I want to talk to you about service charges, which is a big issue.
It is a big issue, yeah.
Now, remember we went to
but
a
I don't
restaurant
understand what the
last
government's
Friday
going to do about this. The government say, right, what they're going to do is ensure that somehow restaurants give all the tips to the people who are actually doing the work.
Yes.
How are they going to ensure that exactly?
Well, I suppose they're going to do it through accountancy. They're going to make sure that if it says 12.5% is added to your bill for service charge, then they're going to enforce that 12.5% goes to the staff. But then again...
Yeah, but how, though?
Well, you see, it's wheels within wheels with politicians. George Osborne has just raised the minimum wage to £7.50, I think, hasn't he?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I don't want to wish to make a verdict on that, because people who run small businesses have, you know, very, very small margins to work on. And sometimes, that was a huge increase. I think it went up from something like 6.80 to 7.50. It was 50p. It was an extra 50p an hour to whatever it was. So, you know, 40 hours a week.
Not very much, really, less than 10%.
Hang on, 40 hours a week for one worker, £20. You've got 10 workers, £200.
Yeah.
£200 a week, $10,000 a year. Put your business taxes on top of that, $12,500 a year or more. So it's quite... so what the government now do is they're going to say, right, all those tips have got to go to that. What they're basically doing is saying, look, we can subsidise people's minimum wage by making sure you give them the tips and all that kind of stuff. I don't understand tipping, never had. I've never understood.
Why not?
Well, if it says 12.5% service is added on your bill, I've never believed that was ever distributed fairly amongst the staff.
Well, particularly if it's paid for on a credit card.
Exactly. How can it be? So what I always do is I look around at the people who've been serving us for the last 3 or 4 hours or something like that, and I just slip them a £20 note and say...
What, each?
Well, it depends. It depends. It might be a £10 note. There's 2 of them, or I don't know. Or something.
What did you do on Friday?
Sorry?
What did you do on Friday?
I paid. We paid the cheque and all that. We sorted that out. But then I gave one particular waitress who'd looked after us £20.
Right. So you paid the service bill twice then?
Well, yeah, but I don't think she gets the 12.5%.
But you can refuse to pay that. You know that, don't you?
What, you can say take it off?
Yeah, you can say take it off.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know.
You're not required to pay it.
You'd be a pretty miserable individual to say that.
Well, no, you
you
could. What you could say to them is that I'd rather not pay for it this way. I would rather pay cash to the people who are actually coming to the table.
Yeah, but then I think they have to declare it to their manager or their boss or something like that, and say...
well, in America, of course, what they do is they bring people in, they pay their sort of national insurance for them, but basically don't pay them a salary, and you just get tips, and you make your money on tips. And if you're working in a decent restaurant or a decent bar, it's a very good living. And that's why the service is so much better there.
Yeah, I may be right. And also, don't they do that with doormen at top blocks of apartments,
Oh, what, in like concierges and things like that?
Concierges, they only ever get tips. They don't, I mean, you have to actually pay, I think, to get the job.
They get tips. They get tips, at Christmas, but no, they don't live on tips. They get paid to do the job.
No. Every time a guy gets out of a car, he gets $20 in his hand, and every time you open the door for him and he comes out of the apartment, another $20.
Yeah, but that's not their only income, is what I'm saying.
Well, it seems to me they make an awful lot of money. A lot of them do very, very
You seem
well.
very confused about this whole thing. I'm not sure whether you want to pay more in tips or less.
No, I want to make sure that the people who get the tips are the people who are actually, working at the coalface.
Yes.
Not in a coal mine, obviously, but you understand what I'm saying.
I think you're absolutely right.
And I think they should have. And I don't understand how that anybody can guarantee that money goes to them unless the boss actually hands it out to them.
No, I think you're very well right. We're going to talk coming up to Jamie Jackson. We're going to find out what is going on at Manchester United and at City as well.
Yeah.
This is the 2 Mics in for Hawksby and Jacobs on TalkSport with Papa John's. Talk Sport, we are the 2 Mics. Alan has sent this text into 81089. He says, Mike Parry says he has a high IQ. Listening to his inability to correctly pronounce countless words over the years, words a 9-year-old could pronounce, I think his opinion of his own intelligence is seriously skewed.
Is that right?
It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit harsh.
For a bank holiday Monday.
That's all right. I'm not going to react to that.
No, try not to. Now, a very exciting weekend. Of course, Leicester didn't win the Premier League. They managed to get a point instead of 3 at Old Trafford. Manchester City, on the other hand, lost 4-2 to Southampton and looked pretty dull, you'd have to say. Let's talk to Jamie Jackson now, who's the Guardian's Manchester correspondent, and find out, first of all, what Louis van Gaal is going to do next year. Jamie, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, gents.
Hi,
so,
Jamie.
We're all still a bit confused about what's happening at Old Trafford come the end of the season. I mean, on the one hand, you hear that Louis van Gaal is leaving. On the other hand, he comes out and says that he's definitely staying. Jose Mourinho's people seem to think he's going to be there. What's your understanding?
Well, I think one of the reasons for the scenario you just described is because it is up in the air. I think it's fair to say that if he doesn't qualify, or if Manchester United don't qualify, for the Champions League, obviously a top 4 position, then he's in a pretty precarious state of affairs. Yeah, as you sort of mentioned there, Mourinho basically is on the radar, but you have to ask the question that's been asked basically since kind of Boxing Day when he lost at Stoke City, and there's a crisis there. They didn't go for Mourinho. Why they haven't gone for him so far? But Mourinho will be approached. I understand if they don't qualify for the Champions League, basically once their season's over, because they have also got the FA Cup final. But I'm not so sure if they were to finish 5th or 6th, or whatever it might be, and they win the FA Cup final, whether that's going to be enough. They don't really want to sack him, Louis van Gaal. But if you don't qualify for the Champions League, having spent the thick end, of £250 million, it's not great. Let's put it that way. And I think in Mourinho there is a good candidate there, but they are in a bit of a quandary about the whole thing because there's certain elements they're unsure about Mourinho. So it is kind of all to play for Van Gaal, but given the result yesterday, it's now out of their hands, isn't it, Manchester United? They're relying on City and Arsenal dropping points because even if they win all their games, they've got 3 left United, they still could get pipped to that top 4 position.
Yeah, Jamie, I read something over the weekend. I mean, millions of words have been written about the Jose Mourinho situation to say that actually he's, he's not committed himself 100% to Manchester United yet until he gets the proper sort of deal that he feels he should be offered, i.e., total control over what's happening in Manchester United. And his view seems to be the further they fall behind, the more difficult it's going to be to get them back. And therefore, he wants his contract to be more and more solid, more and more concrete the longer this goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably felt he had that scenario just paid the second time at Chelsea. And obviously, it's Chelsea Football Club, which can be a little bit involved. So, yeah, I mean, he would like that. I mean, I think Manchester United is generally less complicated once you get in there as manager. You basically report to Ed Woodward, who is the head honcho. He pulls all the strings, and that's a sort of clear line of sort of communication or power from Woodward down to whoever the manager may be. So I think he would get that. I think Paris Saint-Germain are after him, and again, he's hoping, as I understand it, to sort out his future in the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks, of course, being basically the end of the season. Apart from the FA, even the FA Cup final will kind of be done and dusted, but in that time frame. So the interesting one is if they get rid of Van Gaal and don't go for Mourinho, who do they go for? Because there's a few heads being scratched on that. I'm not so sure it'll be Ryan Giggs. He's an obvious candidate. Whether they go for him again, I'm not so sure. So
I think Manchester United are mad, and I think if Sir Bobby Charlton still has an influence over it and is still reluctant to accept Jose Mourinho as the next manager, then United are simply not acting like a big club should. This would never happen at Real Madrid. It would never happen at Barcelona. It would never happen at Bayern Munich.
Well, I think those 3 clubs, have their own kind of involved politics. I mean, I'll give you another name who isn't as enamoured of Jose Mourinho as maybe everyone thinks. It's Sir Alex Ferguson. He is not as keen or bigger fan of him as maybe, as I say, people think.
Yeah, but show him the alternative.
But he's a big friend of his, isn't he? I mean, they used to share glasses of wine and all the rest of it. But is part of this also complicated by the fact that United have to kind of give a reason to shareholders and to their and to the New York Stock Exchange before they can actually announce anything?
Well, yeah, I mean, the other thing they can't be doing is they are still in the Champions League qualification shake-up, the FA Cup final. So really, why? Imagine if they announce Mourinho or they approach him or whoever it might be, they're doing that with. Everyone would then go, well, wait a minute, you've still got, your season's still live.
Yeah.
So I completely understand that. But I think, if you're not going to go for Mourinho, then do you stick with Van Gaal? If not, then who are you going to go for? I mean, Diego Simeone is an interesting one. They do like him, definitely like him, the Atletico Madrid coach. Would he leave there? I don't know.
I don't think so. He seems like Atletico. Now, you've got to remember, James, that by the time Jose Mourinho comes back into football at the highest level now, the rules have changed. The horizon is much, much different because he is no longer now in charge of one of the, quote, big four clubs, like he was at Chelsea,
sure.
like he would be at Manchester United. What he's got to cope with now is the quite remarkable factor of other clubs, smaller, less money, but, with great commitment, bursting into that top four and pushing the others out.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe United will poach Ranieri and he'll go to Leicester City, Jose Mourinho. You never know.
But don't you think, under the circumstances, Jamie, that it seems mad that they haven't worked all this out? I mean, we know what's happening in Manchester City. Pep Guardiola is coming in, Manuel Pellegrini is leaving. At this point in the season, it's so late in the season, surely they must know. They may be not telling anyone, but they must have figured it out.
Well, I think, the reason for it not being massively publicly known is because they still are undecided, as we sort of began this conversation talking about Van Gaal. They don't really want to sack him. And if I could put it this way, if they were to finish, in the top four in the FA Cup, having brought, we've also brought through Rashford and other youngsters, Borthwick Jackson, Lingard's doing well now, et cetera, then he sacked him and you say, well, wait a minute, why have you done that? Because you have qualified for the top four. I know they wanted top three, that was the aim. But you have won the FA Cup. It's the first trophy since Ferguson retired. So you could sort of say then in those terms the club is moving on properly. It's been 3 years since he went. First FA Cup since 2004. Everything else I just said, then why would they sack him? And I think that's one of the reasons why. I think they probably have got it worked out in terms of their calculations, but they can't really be publicly declaring this because the season's still live.
Yeah, bizarre, isn't it? Now, you would have seen Manchester City's defeat to Southampton at the weekend as well.
Yeah.
Manuel Pellegrini looked a bit like a guy on the sidelines, and we always say this when they lose, but he looked like a guy who didn't really know what to do to motivate the players. And some of the players...
Or whether he cared.
Well, or whether he cared. Some of the players really were just having a laugh, where they're just taking the money and not working for it.
Well, I mean, I don't know about having a laugh, but I suppose,
Well, having a laugh in the sense that they were not performing to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone could lose any game of football in this Premier League, especially this season. But the way they did it yesterday wasn't great. I suppose, it's football is another game, and the next game happens to be, Real Madrid Champions League semi-final second leg. If they win that, it's a big if, of course. I'm not so sure they will because Ronaldo will be back, then all be forgiven. But, I still think they're going to qualify for top four, but they are leaving it a little bit closer than, okay, he rested some players yesterday from the starting 11, Pellegrini, but we are looking obviously at the sort of the dog days of his tenure now. He's got 3 games left to get to the final, and he could still end up, the first Champions League winner for Manchester City as a manager. It's going to be very difficult, as I say, because Ronaldo's back, but they've got a chance. I didn't think the draw that they shared last Tuesday was that bad a result, as some people were saying, because obviously Ronaldo didn't start and Benzema was off at half-time. I thought it was still a good result, but it's going to be difficult over there. I'll be going to that game, luckily enough, and let's see if they can get through there. I saw them lose their 3-2 last minute to the group game.
That's right. And Jamie, because you are the Northwest correspondent of one of our, most stellar newspapers, Everton, what's happening there? I'm reading over the weekend, all sorts of names are in the frame, like Pellegrini, even Andre Villas-Boas.
Andre Villas-Boas.
Yes. What is going on?
I would say that Pellegrini wouldn't be a bad addition. I know obviously you're a fan. I don't know what you think about that, but he should be doing better, shouldn't he, Martinez, than, with the sort of players you've got there. I would say, that's my opinion.
There is anxiety.
Listen, the Cups have gone well, 2 semi-finals. I know you got knocked out, but that's not bad if the league position was sort of 4 or 5 places higher, but that's a big if, of course. So, I don't know, I think you could do a lot worse than Pellegrini, but whether they would go for him, I'm not so sure. Listen, Villas-Boas, all due respect to the guy, I'd have to say a big no on that one.
Well,
I don't think he's ever really done it in this country.
Well, hang on, he failed at Chelsea. He then was taken on by Spurs. He failed at Spurs. The man's a serial failure.
Well, some people fail and then they succeed, like you were saying Gary Neville will, but that's another story. Jamie, thank you very much indeed. Jamie Jackson there from The Guardian giving us what he thinks is happening up at Manchester United. Nobody seems to know. I find it very, very strange indeed. Lots more coming up. This is TalkSport.
Very strange.
We're giving away another slice of £300 now, thanks to Papa John's. Every hour of the show, we'll be asking a million-themed question. All you need to do is text the correct answer, and you could win £100 in cash.
That's right. Now then, today's second question is this. During the 2014-15 season, how many Premier League teams got over 1 million aggregate fans at home games? Was it 2 teams or was it 4 teams?
Text the word fan followed by A for 2 or B for 4 to 81089 before 2:45. Text costs 50 pence and standard network charges apply. Visit talksport.com for full terms and conditions.
Hawksby and Jacobs on TalkSport with Papa John's. Sign up now for your chance to win €1 million at www.amillionfans.com. 18 plus, terms and conditions apply.
Brighton and Hove Albion just kicked off against Derby County. Let's go to Elliot Cook, who's watching for TalkSport. Elliot.
Brighton 0, Derby 0, 4 minutes gone. First chance of the game coming just seconds ago. Derby giving away possession in midfield, and there was Brighton's player of the year, Berham Kyle, to nick the ball away. Fired in a low left-footed shot, took a slight deflection, and it's behind for a corner kick. Brighton 0, Derby 0.
Thanks very much indeed, Elliot. We'll keep you updated with everything you need to know from that part of the world. And of course, later on tonight, it's Burnley against QPR, and they could be promoted if it all works out in various different ways.
Indeed.
We don't want to get too carried away. Did you watch any of the snooker, by the way, over the course of the weekend?
Well, actually...
Now that it's started up again?
Actually, I sort of turned away from it last night, switched over and watched something else when the... when old Selby, Mark Selby, was leading 6-0. Was
he
that
was
right?
leading 6-0,
6-0, yeah.
And then Ding came back. Ding Junhui came back.
Yeah.
But the thing was, it turned into this horrendous sort of game of patience, and instead of Selby kind of trying to win the games, he just kept playing safe all the time. And things were running on Twitter saying that Selby was ruining it all for Leicester. He's from Leicester.
He is, yeah.
And that he's actually ruining Leicester's reputation.
John Vertigo made some expletive... was it Virgo?
John Virgo. Not John Vertigo.
Yeah, John Virgo made some expletive about, blimey, this is taking a bit of a long time.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, go on.
I want to, once again, re-endorse my credentials as the man of the people, OK?
Re-endorse your credentials?
Yes.
As the man of the people with the £43,000 merch?
No, never mind that. Now, listen, have you ever eaten at the Ritz?
I don't believe I've ever eaten a proper meal there. I've had tea there.
No, I've eaten at the Ritz. And
it's not really a man of the people location.
Well, hang on, I'm about to tell you something about this, right? Now, on one occasion, I took a young lady there. It's very impressive, obviously, because it's very, very
posh. Was this before decimalisation?
No, you idiot. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, how long ago was it?
Well, it was a couple of years back. But anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is we had a very nice meal there, and they do, in fact, serve fish and chips, right? Can you believe that? Yeah.
Fish and chips.
Sorry, have the teacups around here got holes in them?
There's a shortage of water.
Yeah.
I'm just conserving water at the moment.
Mr. Graham's just had a cup of tea during that break there, and it was a third of a cup of tea. I'm not quite sure why. It must be rationing.
Well, we don't
on the
complain
tea
about
bags.
that sort of thing,
no.
Especially you, because you're a man of the people.
Exactly. Now, look, what I'm saying is this. You won't believe this, but it was a very, very fine place to go. And what I've read this morning is the hotel is being severely criticised because somebody spotted one of the porters round the back of the hotel bringing in boxes of McCain chips.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
the frozen variety.
Yes, that's right, yeah. Now, I don't understand that.
Why is that a problem?
I don't know. I've no idea. But they're saying that this is disgraceful. 5-star Ritz hotel accused of serving budget frozen chips to punters forking out £6 a portion.
I suppose if you're are you sure it's £6? What, £6 just for the chips?
Yeah, in the Ritz.
How much does fish and chips at the Ritz cost?
About
probably 20 something, isn't it?
No, it's near 30. I think. But I mean, I don't know. They might ring up now and say no, it's not. It's 27. Well,
I can easily check the menu. But I think if there is a very, very expensive levy being put on the chips, they should probably cook them themselves. Because if you go to some of these, what you would call sort of, celebrity chefs restaurants like Gordon Ramsay's places or Jamie Oliver's, they do their chips in a particular way.
How do you know that?
Like they deep fry them, say, 3 times, or they bake them first and then they fry them again. Yeah, because you can tell by looking at them they're not McCain chips.
Right, now they had a complaint from TripAdvisor. What's that?
TripAdvisor is a website where people basically write personal reviews of places where they've been.
Right.
TripAdvisor's now become quite an important thing.
Well, I'm sure it has, because it says pasty finger-sized chips. And this is because the hotel was serving up the budget version, and somebody's provided a picture of these. Now, I don't agree with you here, and do you know why?
You don't agree with me about what?
I don't agree with you about saying, they should individually do their chips. I don't agree with that.
What I'm saying is they should if they're going to charge an awful lot of money for them. If you're going to give somebody some McCain chips, I don't have a problem with McCain chips. I think they're perfectly good chips.
I think they're great.
But if you're going to buy in, the equivalent of a serving for 50p a pop, and you're going to sell it for £15, then that's really taking the mickey.
No, you're not paying for the chips on your plate. You're paying paying for the surrounding in which you eat them.
Well,
that's what it's all about.
If you go to a restaurant which is purporting to be an expensive restaurant charging £30 per main course, then you should expect the stuff to be cooked. They're not just bring a kebab in a rolled bit of paper.
No, of course not.
The surroundings are so lovely, we're going to charge you £48 for a lamb kebab.
No, you see, you don't understand. The thinking is this, that, you see, McCain's, right, sell millions of chips all around the world, and the standards they apply to their chips have to be incredibly high.
Yeah.
Because just one bad chip and it ruined their name.
Yeah, that's not... my issue is not with the chips. My issue is with the price.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. Whereas if a top hotel provides a plate of chips and one of them's dodgy, well, they just get away with it. You know, they just find them another chip or another load of chips and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I've seen nothing wrong with eating McCain chips whatsoever. I think they're great. I think they're tested all the time. They're brilliant. And what you're paying for are two things. A, the surroundings in which you eat your chips, OK? But secondly,
I get that.
But secondly, and this is much more important to me, prohibitive prices to keep, you know, people of a lower life existence than you out of the place where you want to eat your chips.
There you go. A Rivoli burger in the Rivoli bar.
Right.
£27.
27.
Doesn't say if you get chips. Oh, it serves with French fries.
With French fries. Well, there you go. What's wrong with that? That seems to me to be OK.
Well, it's all right if they're cooking it, but it's not all right if they're shipping it in from the next door fish and chip shop.
No, they're not shipping them in. I mean, would you want to go somewhere where the surroundings were good, but the food was so cheap that people that were of a different social class to you were mingling with you?
I don't care who mingles with me.
Would you?
I'm not a snob like you. I don't care
I'm
who
not a
mingles
snob.
with me.
I'm not
We're
a
going
snob.
to talk to Jay Rayner, who's a critic of these things, coming up very shortly, so you can ask him.
A critic of what?
A critic of food.
Critic of food? I'm not criticising the food. I'm actually bigging the food up.
You're talking about the food. So I bet you any money he will share my view on this. Because you are a Philistine when it comes to food.
£32.
And you're a snob when it comes to going to places where you think are great just because you're paying more money through the nose for it. Ridiculous situation. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mites. Let's go back to Elliot Cook, who's watching Brighton.
Yeah.
Elliot, what's going on?
It's Brighton 0, Derby 0, but Brighton coming close to opening the scorer. A free kick 5 yards outside the area, beautifully curled with whip over the wall by Anthony Kanokar, but excellent defending by Jason Shackell. He somehow was backpedaling and managed to flick the ball over the crossbar with his head when the ball looked destined for the top corner. It's Brighton 0, Derby 0.
Elliot Cook there reporting into Talk Sport from the Amex. Lots going on. Coming up in the next hour, of course, it's winners and losers. I hope you've managed to prepare properly for that, have you, over the course of the weekend? Because you seem to be very, very busy. Let's talk to Jay Rayner now, though. He's the Observer's food critic, because we were talking just before there about the cost of things.
Yes.
I can't find how much chips cost at the Ritz, but what I can tell you is if you wanted to go there for breakfast and you wanted to have something like grilled kippers, it's £37.
Well, you see, that's because
if
it's
you wanted
the
to
Ritz.
have scrambled eggs and smoked salmon with a few chives on the top, £40.
But that's the Ritz. I mean, that's, you know...
but it's not any better than any number of other places. You get it for half the price.
They don't drag them in off the street and say, you'll eat here, and by the way, we'll take that credit card out of your pocket and charge you for it. People choose to go there. That's what they expect.
Yeah, but they've got more money than sense, in my view. Let's talk to Mr. Rayner and see what he thinks of it all. Jay, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us.
Afternoon. Are we talking stupid prices at the Ritz?
We are talking stupid prices at the Ritz. Well, Mike was telling me earlier that they've got into a bit of trouble because it turns out that they're bringing in some McCain's frozen oven chips around the back door and selling them.
I'm really sorry, guys. I was told you wanted to talk to me about tipping.
Well, we are going to talk about tipping, but I didn't realise that being a food critic, you would be so straight-jacketed. I mean, we can talk about tipping in a minute. Don't worry. But let's talk about whether the Ritz should be flogging, McCain's oven chips for whatever it is, £45 for fish and chips.
No.
Exactly.
Let's move on to tipping.
Let's move on to tipping. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, on the tipping scene here, I mean, does anybody know what the clear pattern is? When you pay that 12.5% and it's on a credit card, is there any guarantee it gets back to the people who've been serving you your food at your table?
None at all. That's the problem. I've been doing that job for 17 years, and I can't tell you exactly what happens. The whole distinction between what's a tip, a gratuity, what is a service charge, which bit gets that applied to it, it is as clear as mud. And I don't think it's been made any clearer today by the Business Secretary's announcement of a consultation changes in the law. I genuinely think we just need to scrap the whole lot of it, increase prices of dishes so that the diner knows what they're paying, and pay waiters a proper salary rather than having them dependent on, the mood that you or I are in when we come in for dinner.
But that's one of the problems, isn't it? Because paying them a proper salary is precisely what doesn't work terribly well, because the main problem with the service industry in this country is that people don't rely on their tips to make a living, and so therefore the service isn't perhaps as good as it is in America, where they do.
Well, you can go one of two ways. The American system, where they talk about their tips and how important it is. Have you ever tried in America? I'm sure you've been. Have you ever tried not paying the tip in a restaurant?
I have, and in fact, quite successfully. Once in New York, the guy got very upset with me.
They won't let you out the restaurant.
They get very, very angry. Whereas I think the more interesting lesson here is if you look to a country like Japan, where they take their profession very seriously, and if you try to tip them, they're almost offended. In fact, they genuinely are offended. There is, whenever anybody objects to the idea of getting rid of tips and services, there are all these reasons they come up with, but none of them can actually say why, if it works in Japan or Australia or New Zealand, it can't work here. Either we believe that waiters are doing a proper job that deserves respect and the respect of a wage, or we don't. I think it does, and I think the simplest way is to get rid of this endless confusion over tips and service charges by paying waiters properly and then putting that on the bill.
Well, Jay, I've just been told by my colleague here, my colleague in arms, again called Mike, that you can actually say to them when they're preparing the bill, knock off the service charge at 12.5%. Now, if that's the case, I fully endorse that, because even if I do pay it with the service charge, if a particular waiter or waitress has been very attentive to me, I put my hand in my pocket, I bring out a 20-quid bill, and I try to surreptitiously push it into their hand. So that actually...
Why don't you just leave it on the table?
I don't leave it on the table because, A, somebody else might pick it up, but B, their colleagues will know that they've been favoured by a particular customer and might claim a percentage of that 20 quid. Is that not right?
Well, it's just confusing and strange and feudal, frankly. I mean, one of the things is that you may think that your waiter has given you brilliant service, but perhaps they've been given the space in which to do so by the efficiency of all the other waiters on the floor and the efficiency of the kitchen. Restaurants are a machine. They work from front to back of house, and if one part of them falls apart, it's really down to just one person being rubbish at their job.
But that's true, though. But does that not mean that when... I mean, I know you're saying you may be not in favour of what happens in New York. I mean, New York, for me, is one of the great places to go out for a meal, because the restaurant business there is very, very cutthroat. It works very well. You have to be very, very good at your job. Otherwise, the restaurant fails. The food has to be great. It has to be quick. It has to be served by people with a smile on their face. And if it doesn't work, the restaurant's done and dusted. And I think here, it's a very different case. You still go to lots of places in Britain where the service is dreadful.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I don't think there's much difference between London and New York these days, if I'm really honest. And
I think there is still. It's a lot better here now, but it's still not as good as it is there.
Oh, I don't know. I find some of the American service where they hunker down beside you and rest their hand against your upper arm and say, "Hi guys, how are we today?" And let me tell you about my specials. You just want to nail their hands to the floor.
Yeah, but it's still rather that than waiting 20 minutes when you walk in to sit down and nobody's even come and asked you what you want.
But see, the reality is, if we want waiting to be a professional career, something with a real career structure, attracting people who are good at it, we're going to have to start paying for it. And I don't see how having this feudal system based on some kind of antiquated mythology that goes back to the days of lords and servants really serves that when we're in the 21st century.
It's the same
Make sure that waiters are paid properly, get rid of the tips, which nobody understands anyway. If you really want to leave a little extra on the table in cash, well, you still can.
Well, it's the same with barmen in New York, isn't it, Jay? How many barmen in New York have you seen, operate so efficiently and then come back to England and 2 days later you've got a guy in a pub asking you why you want more than one lump of ice in your gin and tonic, why you want a slice of lemon, why you want a clean glass.
You're now just turning into an angry old man on a Monday afternoon.
No, I'm not. They, you know as well as I do that people talk very proudly about being a barman in a New York pub or a New York bar because it is a very, very respectable profession.
Well, it is.
It is.
But it's driven by an entirely different culture. I think we need a change of culture over here because we've ended up with the kind of service we deserve, and we've ended up with the kind of people going into it who see it as just the thing to do before the other thing they're going to do, and not actually the main thing. And the only way that it's ever going to change is if we get rid of our tipping system, which is a mess, and replace it with an equitable pay system for the staff.
I think there's more to it than that, but we haven't got quite
I think
time
it's
for
in
you
the
to answer that.
DNA of restaurateurism in this country.
I think it is, because I think there's a lot of people in this country who don't want to serve other people. I think that's a problem as well. What do you think of that?
No, I think it's rubbish.
Well, I tell you what, I'd rather have a restaurant full of Eastern European waiters and waitresses than actually English waiters and waitresses. They're better.
I'm not getting involved.
No, they.
I'm really not.
Jay only wants to talk about the things that we've agreed.
I thought you were going to have a sensible conversation.
You must be joking,
well, I think
Jay.
that's sensible. I think that's pretty sensible. That's my observation.
Jay's a food critic. I can't believe he ever has any sensible conversation with anybody. What sort of job is that, for heaven's sake? This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, winners and losers, coming up a little bit later on, of course. We seem to have upset Mr. Jay Rayner. He's madly tweeting about how we upset him somehow by somehow not agreeing with him. He says he thought it would be a sane, professional something, but he doesn't actually put the right word in, rather than being cornered by what sounded like bladdered men at 2SM. I don't know if that's some sadomasochistic reference. I presume he means AM.
Not sure.
But anyway, he seems to think that it's all right for him to come on here and tell us what he wants to talk about.
Yeah, okay.
How bizarre.
What is he objecting to exactly?
Well, I don't know what he's objecting to. I think he's objecting to the fact that we didn't agree with him.
Well, I asked him if he knew anything about the quality of the chips at the Ritz.
Yeah, he did.
The Ritz is one of the world's most famous restaurants, isn't it?
It is.
Wasn't that a valid question to a man who has built his reputation on a career, an outstanding career as a restaurant critic?
Well, he's a food critic for The Observer, right?
Yeah.
Which comes out once a week. Right? He sent an email to our producer saying what an effing waste of time that was.
Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
It's charming, isn't it?
He also accused us of being knuckle-draggers.
I prefer to listen to our listeners on this one. Jim says, what a muppet that food critic was. It seems that his definition of a sensible conversation is one in which you have to agree with everything he says or he gets in a huff. I think too many freebie meals have puffed him up a bit too much, literally and metaphorically. And here's one for Adrian who says, he did come across as a snooty, humourless, self-important type.
Well,
I'm sorry, I can't disagree.
Yeah, we can't disagree with that. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, have you been in a restaurant, have you been served by waiters and waitresses who have come from Eastern Europe to work here and earning a great living and doing a great job? What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Ben says, well done, Mike Graham. You've confirmed that my opinion of Claire Rayner's son was entirely correct. Here's one from Forbes who says, what a touchy grump Jay was the one time you want Porky to be rude to the guest and he was quiet.
Yeah, and Baz here says, right touchy one, old Rayner, wasn't he? Always thought he was a bit of his own, and then we've just killed that off.
Yeah, you can't mention that bit, can you?
Yeah.
But what a bizarre thing to do. What a strange thing to agree to come on a radio show and then get all upset about it.
Yeah, well, the difficulty is that if the person who comes on wants to set the agenda, he should tell us before he comes on.
Yeah. Well, if he had any sense, he would also know that by being on Talk Sport, you might actually get a few more readers on The Observer, which last time I looked wasn't selling too many papers.
Is it anything like New Day?
It's not that bad.
Not that bad?
Things haven't gone that badly wrong.
So there's hope.
No, indeed. Now, coming up a bit later on in the hour, we're going to talk about one of your other favourite subjects, which is the wine situation.
Well, yeah,
the
of course
wine
we
business.
Should. Yeah. Now, is this because, once again, there's a new huge burst of enthusiasm for English wine, English champagne, all this? You can't actually call it English champagne anyway, can you?
You can't call anything champagne unless it comes from the Champagne region of France.
Champagne, as we call it.
No, you don't call it that. We call it champagne.
No, I do. I call it champagne when I'm there, when I'm in France.
Champagne.
If I'm in the. When
was the last time you were in the Champagne region?
I haven't been there for a while, but
really?
I mean, I have been in the Georges V, in the last few years, and that's
the Georges V, another place where you probably shouldn't pay €55 for some fish and chips.
Well, you see, somebody said here that I shouldn't be allowed to comment on the quality of the chips in the Ritz Hotel because it means I'm not a man of the people for being there. But I think I'm a man of the people for insisting there's nothing wrong with serving McCain's chips there.
Well, you said you were a man of the people, but then you proceeded to explain why the reason you would like to go there is because you wouldn't have to mix with people who had less money than you.
Oh, no.
That is what you said.
No, I didn't mean that. Well, I didn't mean that. I meant that there is a certain quality of life one seeks in those sort of places, and you tend to look for it there.
Here's one from Callie's Disco. He's just called Jay Rayner a plank. You just showed yourself up on national radio.
I suppose that's getting a bit harsh.
I don't think so.
Yeah, OK. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll leave it at that. Now, about this drink situation, there is another... And who are we talking to about this, by the way?
I don't know. We'll find out later on.
He's not going to be sensitive or touchy or anything, is he?
I hope not.
No.
Well, nobody will be worse than Jay Rayner.
Oh, well, that's a bit harsh now. I think now we've decided that the boy had an off day and we can leave it at that. I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about, because I am a student of the English language.
Yes.
You have no idea, neither does anybody else, exactly how many expressions Shakespeare gave us.
How many expressions?
Yeah. I mean, in common day modern parlance, you have absolutely no idea. Absolutely no idea. There's over 400 modern-day expressions used in the English language, right, which are attributed to Shakespeare, OK?
Yes, go on.
Right, here we go.
Well, it's just going to be any surprise to me, because most of the things you tell me are not very much of a surprise.
I think they are. For goodness sake, right?
For goodness sake?
For goodness sake.
Yeah, where does that come from?
Shakespeare.
Well, you're just going to say Shakespeare, or you're going to say a specific play?
Well, there are too many to give you. So I'm saying, for goodness sake, bloodstained, assassinate, homicide, suspicious, baseless, impartial, premeditated, and exposure, in a pickle, the game's afoot.
Yeah. None of this is surprising me so far.
Hang on. A dish fit for the gods.
Yeah.
Have you ever stood on ceremony?
Yeah.
Have you ever danced attendance? There's one here which can't be Shakespeare, but it has a modern parlance. There's for twitting me with perjury. See, that's got the word Twitter in it, even though it's 400 years ago.
Well, when has anybody ever said that?
People do. But here, let me go on. To break the ice. And did you know, you won't believe this, this is the best thing I got from this journal I read it on.
Oh, yeah.
The first ever knock knock who's there joke was actually in Macbeth.
Was it?
Yeah.
What's the joke?
Well, isn't it with the jailer, as I remember it, because I studied Macbeth, knock knock.
Well, why don't you tell us the joke?
Well, it's
and
not...
does he say who's there?
That's right, yeah. But,
Does it say who's there?
Well, of course it does, because it's, it's knock knock.
Right.
Who's there?
And what did you say, Macbeth? Macbeth who?
No,
well, how's it a knock-knock joke?
No.
You don't just have a knock-knock joke by somebody knocking on the door.
Well, you do.
It's not a knock-knock joke.
No.
It has to go knock-knock. The other guy has to go, who's there?
Yes, as I recall. Yes, that's right.
Macduff?
So it was knock-knock, who's there?
Yeah.
And then, as I recall, the answer was the jailer.
And does he say the jailer who?
No, I think he said the jailer or the jailhead or something like that. You know what I mean? That was what it was all about.
It's not much of a joke, is it?
Well, it was a good joke in those days. You've got to understand. You've got to understand what many people understand, Mike. So I'll explain this to you, to our millions of listeners.
Yeah, go on.
Shakespeare wrote plays to be acted on the stage. He never thought they'd be written down and studied in text. They were never meant to be.
Right.
He didn't write them down.
So it was not meant to be. It was all meant to be just memorised.
It was all meant to give an image and give a portrayal and give an experience.
Did you watch that Shakespeare thing the other week? Was it last weekend?
What about?
There was a sort of night of Shakespeare going on.
No.
Because it was, to celebrate his birthday.
No, it's 400 years since he died, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but his birthday and his death date were the same.
Yeah, they were. That's
so
right.
The celebration was joint.
No, because 400 years was since he died.
Yeah, I know.
453 years was since he was born.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
So
but it was on the same day.
It's the same date, though.
It was St George's Day.
Yeah.
I actually find reading Shakespeare intensely boring, don't you?
Well, it's not something I read very often.
No, because I do.
Well, you read Shakespeare?
Yes, I do.
When was the last Shakespearean act that you read?
King Lear. I read a bit of King Lear to try and understand a particular part of it I didn't know. I've got a book of the complete works of Shakespeare.
Have you?
No bigger than like a paperback book, you know what I mean?
What, like a pocket book?
Yes, a pocket book of the complete works of Shakespeare.
The complete works of Shakespeare in what sort of size? How many pages?
Lots, but
Lots of pages.
but it's pocket book size. You can carry it around with it. That's what I mean. It's terrific.
Must be very small print. Must be very small print.
A Wild Goose Chase was his. Okay.
Wild Goose Chase. Yeah.
Yes.
Knew that.
Slept Not One Wink.
Yeah.
Is his. How about that? With Bated Breath.
Yeah.
All's Well That Ends Well. That was the name of a play, of course, as well as becoming a modern expression in the English language. He's also responsible for lots of film titles which have been stolen from his works.
Yeah.
So, for instance, you won't believe this. Murder Most Foul.
Yes. Well, I believe all of them because
North by Northwest.
Yeah.
You know that North by Northwest came from a Shakespearean text.
It was a film by Hitchcock, wasn't it?
That was what's his name?
Cary Grant.
Cary Grant.
Yeah.
I was going to say Gary Peacock then. For some
Gary
reason.
Peacock. Who's he?
No, Cary Grant. And amazingly, as recently as Where Eagles Dare.
Yes. That was on last night.
Eh?
Where Eagles Dare was on last night. I actually watched a bit of it before Match of the Day.
And perhaps the most popularly used one of all time in business, it's Greek to me.
Uh-huh.
That's a Shakespearean expression.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing?
Really?
Yeah, don't budge an inch.
Yeah.
Don't be tongue-tied.
Right.
Give somebody short shrift. Mm-hmm. Make a virtue of necessity. And you must insist on fair play.
Okay.
None of those expressions were ever used until Shakespeare got round to writing them into his stage plays. A stony-hearted villain. Don't be bloody-minded.
Right.
You are a blinking idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, you are, but I mean that's not necessarily a Shakespeare expression.
Goes back to Jay Rayner again.
But always remember...
He's getting a terrible tonking on Twitter. You know?
well,
unbelievable.
You know. Well,
He's getting absolutely horsed, monstered, whatever you wish to say.
We didn't mean that to happen, did we?
Well, we didn't start it.
No, of course we didn't.
We didn't start it.
Absolutely.
Called us knuckle draggers.
Quite right.
Terrible thing to say. This is Talk Sport. Coming up, we're talking about the rise of English sparkling wine with Chris Mercer, who's the Decanter magazine guest we've got coming up very shortly. But let's go back to the Amex, where Elliot Cook is watching Brighton and Derby coming up to half-time. Elliot.
Indeed, the half-time whistle's just gone. It's Brighton 0, Derby 0. As things stand, Brighton would need to win at Middlesbrough on the final day of the season to secure automatic promotion. An entertaining first half, as you might expect, with two sides in excellent form. The Seagulls would be in front had it not been for a piece of excellent defending from Jason Shackle. Anthony Knockout took a free kick, got it over the wall. It looked destined for the top corner, but Shackle, ferociously backpedaling, somehow managed to nod the ball over his own crossbar. Tom Ince has hit the side netting as Derby have looked dangerous coming forward. Tomer Hemed has sent a header narrowly wide. It's entertaining stuff. Brighton 0, Derby 0.
Thanks very much indeed. Elliot Cook there reporting in for us on some very, very crucial action in the Championship, of course. And coming up later on to this afternoon for a 45 kick-off, Burnley take on QPR. The Jay Rayner row is still going on. As we take on our next guest, Mr. Chris Mercer, I'm sure we won't have anything like the same kind of trouble with him. Chris, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well indeed.
Well, thank you.
I seem to have upset the food critic of The Observer by asking him a question he wasn't expecting about food. But there we are. You can't have everything in life.
Be a bit more amicable. How about that?
Well, let's try.
Nice. I mean, nice.
You don't mind if we ask you questions about different kinds of wine or sparkling wine versus red wine or rosé or white or anything like that. You're not going to go, well, we didn't agree on this beforehand.
I like all types of wine. So
Excellent. So do we, funnily enough. Fascinating piece in the Times this morning, talking about English fizz with a little je ne sais quoi, talking about the rise of English sparkling wine, basically, and saying that, I mean, nobody's going to completely and utterly start buying it instead of champagne or instead of Prosecco or whatever, but I mean, the English are getting very good at winemaking, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly are. I mean, I have to say, if you go to some parts of France and you speak to some of the French winemakers, English wine is still seen as a bit of a bad joke, you know, and certainly down in the south, that they still can't really believe it's actually happening. But with a couple of the champagne houses investing in English wine now, in the last sort of 6 months, you know, it's starting to get a bit of a head of steam, and they're producing 6 million bottles a year of English wine now, and the quality is very good in some places.
Yeah. And what is it that they've learned to do? Because obviously there was a time when not only was English wine sort of looked upon as rather desperately kind of sad, but just didn't taste very good. But now it's great.
That's right. I think it's a mixture of experience. That people have also come in from outside. So actually you'll find there are people making English wine who've kind of come from other countries as well. It's quite a mix of people sort of involved in the sector. And it's really just, you know, having sort of 20 years or so, really good experience of kind of planting the vines, thinking about what's happening. People talk about climate change as well. You know, the weather's getting a bit warmer. Maybe that's helping. I think it's a bit early to say definitively whether that's true. But there's no doubt that there is some really good stuff coming out of the south of England. Some of the producers like Night Timber or Ridgeview, for example, would be things to look for in the shops.
Right.
And we've seen at Decanter, as we have the Decanter World Wine Awards every year, and English wine is really starting to win more and more medals, certainly in the last 2 years.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I was going to ask you how it's viewed in places like France and Spain and maybe even the new world places like Australia and Argentina.
I think we're still probably a bit away from, you know, a French family sitting down and having a bottle of English sparkling wine in the evening. You know, certainly in some of the wine regions of France and Spain. But having said that, there is interest. Last time I went to Bordeaux, people were asking a lot about English sparkling wine. They're interested. I'm not sure they're worried in terms of the competition, but there's definitely interest.
But Chris, how is it made? I don't understand it, because we have such a variance in temperature between summers and winters that you don't get in the Mediterranean. And these grapes and these vines, they must be killed off sometimes when you get a cold snap in the winter, because we're getting sort of warmer, milder summers, but we're getting cold winters. You know what happens in Florida?
We didn't have any snow this winter at all. We didn't have any snow.
When in Florida you get a cold snap that kills off the orange crop, the country's economy nearly collapses. I don't understand that. Yeah. I mean, are we doing it in big greenhouses? For instance, could somebody who previously put his mind to growing cannabis, in a room full of hot lights and something like that, now be growing wine or growing grapes?
Illegal and switch to wine.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, but I mean, I don't understand how we do it naturally.
It's not actually that drastic. I mean, if you look at the last 2 winters in England, it's been quite mild actually. So they've actually not really had to deal with much extreme weather. I mean, the main problem in England is the rain, as we all know. So, if they get a lot of rain in the summer and it gets cold in August, for example, that can be a bit of a problem in terms of the ripening and the rot in the vineyards. But generally speaking, the last couple of years has been pretty kind to English vineyards. They had a bit of a bad one back in 2012.
And where do they sell all this wine, Chris? Where do they sell this 6 million bottles a year? Because I've never seen it in Tesco's, never seen it in Sainsbury's.
You haven't looked for it.
Because I do look for it, but I mean...
Well, they do sell it in supermarkets.
Well, I've never seen it.
Well, they don't sell it in the bargain basement bin.
Eh?
They don't sell it in the bargain basement bin. You have to look elsewhere.
That's the only thing with it. I mean, it is quite expensive.
Well, there you go.
If you're looking at sort of upwards of £20 a bottle.
Well, there's a very fine. There's a very fine.
£20 a bottle.
There's a very fine restaurant. I'll tell you what. I'll take you there.
I wouldn't pay £20 a bottle for a Petrus.
But you pay 43 grand for a car.
Well, like a car gets you from A to B. All a bottle of wine does is get you from the ceiling to the floor.
It gets you from A to A. You don't move anywhere.
That's
right, but there's
a
very fine restaurant, and I'm not giving them a plug here. It's just because I go there quite a lot. Called Roast. I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, Chris. Up in London Bridge, and they've got a fantastic selection of English wines.
Really?
Most of them from Chapel Down. And I've tried, I think, most of their sort of their sparkling wines I've tried, and I've tried their whites. I don't think I've tried anything other than that, but they're terrific.
All in the name of research, of course.
Well, of course, absolutely. Yeah. But they're great, though.
Now, on that very subject, Chris, you just mentioned, right, new report, studying my medical journals today, new report found that those who have up to a third of a bottle of wine a day, 2 small glasses, with food every day, suffer fewer illnesses, have a more positive outlook on life, and are less likely to binge drink. I mean, this is an endorsement, isn't it, of the beneficial powers of the grape?
We've long suspected it, and now clearly, I don't know, there's a lot of studies like this around. I mean, there is quite a lot of evidence that suggests if you drink a very small amount of red wine in particular every day, so drinking in moderation, it may have some benefits, but at the same time, that doesn't really give you license to go out and drink a bottle a day and justify it.
Sorry, did you say a bottle a morning?
A bottle a day.
Oh, a bottle a day, sorry.
Well, Churchill used to have a bottle of champagne before lunch.
Well, he did, didn't he? Yeah, and didn't he used to sit in bed at night looking through his papers from his red box, liberally surrounded by brandy and champagne.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. He knew how to do it.
How old he was when he died, but
well, he's 93, I think.
But we do get very conflicting information, don't we, Chris, about the benefits and otherwise of wine. 1 minute you've got the head of the government's kind of health agency saying don't have anything to drink at all ever. Because that's really the only way to make sure that you don't get any kind of terrible diseases. Sometimes it's a glass of red a day is good for you. Sometimes it's no red. Sometimes it's a bottle of red a week. I mean, people are very confused, and we do live now in a world where, in this country anyway, drinking is very much part of the culture.
Indeed, yeah. Well, look, I mean, I'm no doctor, but I think, as long as
have you ever tried your hand at being a food critic at all?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you need to try that. Yeah. Well,
as long as you drink it in moderation, I think it's okay. But I think I wouldn't sit down in an evening and have a glass of red wine and think about the health benefits or otherwise of it. I would just do it because I enjoy it.
Exactly. And
absolutely right.
That's the main thing to keep in mind.
Great stuff. Yeah. Where, you say you can get hold of these. I mean, where's the best? Is there a website that you guys run that people could have a look at all of the good sort of English wines without having to go to individual wineries, if you like?
Yeah, so if you go on, decanter.com, which is our website, we've got English wine recommendations on there. Yeah, and you can find stockists on there as well, so you can find the shops that sell them. I mean, generally, if you're looking in places like, sort of Waitrose sell quite a lot of English wine. You'll find like independent wine merchants, like shops sort of around you. They'll probably have like stock at least one or two.
Okay.
There's a really good place if you are in London. There's a good place in Borough Market called the Wine Pantry, which sells a lot of English wine.
Okay.
Oh, he lives there. He lives in Borough Market.
I'm going to pop over there this afternoon. Well, it's not for me. I know where to get hold of these wines.
No,
it's for people like you, planks like you, and for Jay Rayner, who might need to.
I'm not rising to that sort of petty insult.
Chris, thank you very much indeed for joining us and being such a good guest and answering questions that we hadn't prepared you for beforehand.
That's right, yeah.
We've got lots more coming up. And next, it's winners and losers. This is, of course, the time when Mr. Parry and I go head-to-head. We've had 3 competitions thus far in the last, season and a half, and I've won all 3 of them. We're now into our 4th competition, where I'm leading by 1.5 to a half.
Yes.
Basically, the rules are as follows. We will give you our 3 nominations for winners of the weekend and losers of the weekend as well, and then you will vote on Twitter. We'll put out a tweet on the 2 mics, of course, and you can vote for either me or Mike Parry. Now, we haven't agreed on who's going to go first yet, so would you like to go first with losers or with winners?
Well, I normally always pick to go with losers first.
Yeah.
Not brought me luck, so I think I'll go first with winners this week.
All right,
so you can go first with losers.
So that means I will go first with the losers.
Yes.
Now, we mentioned him a little bit earlier on in the show. I'm going to go with John Virgo, even though there would be some who would say, actually, that John Virgo made what was a very dull session of snooker actually quite interesting. But anyone who does what he did obviously has to feel a bit sorry, and he had to make an apology. Unfortunately, the trick of the business is that if you're sitting in front of a microphone, always assume that it's live, because he assumed that he was off mic when they were watching a particularly dull exchange between Mark Selby and Ding Junhui, and he thought that nobody was listening, and he was moaning about the fact that it was going on for so long that he's probably going to miss the racing that he wanted to watch.
Yes.
And all he would get to see would be what can only be described as expletive, a bit of match of the day. And, I mean, a lot of people thought it was funny, and I thought it was quite funny, but I'm still going to put him down as a loser because the BBC had to issue a statement saying we will still be employing John Virgo throughout the rest of the competition.
I think that's a little harsh.
No, all right. My second loser is Prince Harry. I don't know if you saw a video that was put out of the weekend. Prince Harry and the Queen. Basically, what they were doing was promoting the 2016 Invictus Games, which is a very worthwhile endeavour. But unfortunately, it was a spoof too far for me. What they were doing was pretending that they actually got a video sort of telephone call from Barack Obama and Michelle Obama from the White House, and they were doing all this kind of bring it, boom, trying to sort of make out that they were having this very kind of rivalry between the two nations about the Invictus Games. It just made the Queen look, to me, rather silly, and I think he shouldn't have done it.
I think by and by, Harry's regarded as a winner. I think he does a very good job for this country, and I think he holds his head up high, despite the fact that
I didn't ask you for your thoughts or comments on my losers, right?
He's the heir and spare,
and my final loser of the week has to be, as a late one, it's Jay Rayner. Jay Rayner came on our show, decided that he would complain about the fact that we were knuckle draggers. He's now still being slaughtered mercilessly on Twitter and may never recover.
He is.
So those are my 3, and I commend them to the House.
OK.
So what are your 3 losers?
All right, thank you for that. Right, my 3 losers are a bit more straightforward, actually. Lewis Hamilton is my first loser of the week.
You usually have him as a winner.
Well, Lewis Hamilton has become a loser. He's become a loser in the space of 7 Grand Prix. The 3 lost at the end of last season to his teammate, and the 4 he's lost this season.
Name?
Sorry?
What's his teammate's name?
What do you mean?
What's his name?
What's that got to do with it?
Well, it's been good to have accuracy.
No, I'm not bringing another name in. You're always doing this, always trying to put other names in. Lewis Hamilton has now lost 7 consecutive...
Well, you just said his teammate.
Grand Prix,
Well, who's his teammate?
I'm not going to tell you.
You can't remember?
Of course I can remember. I'm not telling you. He's lost 7 consecutive Grand Prix. No. And
start calling you Jay.
And after the last one that he lost in Sochi, right?
Yeah.
He's now hinted that something is afoot and that there's skullduggery going on, because he's saying that the mechanics and the engineers and the people who looked after him in the last 2 seasons when he won the title twice have now been switched to his rival.
Oh.
OK?
All right. So you're saying that he's being somehow being gerrymandered while he's driving around?
Well, he's hinting that he is. He's hinting that,
Well, of course, if that turns out to be true, then he won't be a loser, will he?
Sorry?
If that turns out to be true, he won't be a loser.
Well, he is being a loser at the moment because he's losing successive Grand Prix and he's starting to get an attitude about it. My second loser, and I think this will really resonate with people, Ashley Cole managed to get himself sent off in the space of 35 seconds with 2 yellow cards in the MLS. How about that?
Did he?
Yes, he did.
That is very silly.
He did. What he did was he got done for messing around with the free kick, so he got a yellow card for a technical foul. He then he took the a throw-in. He then took the throw-in, came on the pitch, and then sized the guy down, got a second yellow card, and went off.
Dear me.
So Ashley Cole, 2 yellow cards in 35 seconds.
Who were they playing?
Sorry?
Who were they playing?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they're playing,
Well,
okay?
it does matter.
It does not matter.
It's all about the detail.
And the third one are 2 Villa players, right?
Well, you can't have 2. That's 4 losers then.
No, it's not.
You can only have 1.
No. All right, I'll have 1 then. It's Jordan Ayew who's a Villa player, okay?
Uh-huh.
And do you know why?
Yeah, why?
Because there's now an investigation as to why he got into the crowd and started a discussion which got out of hand with some Watford fans.
Uh-huh.
And it's because, of course, Troy Deeney, who's the Watford centre-forward, who scored 2 goals against his team, was in fact a big Birmingham City fan all his life, and still is. But as Villa have only won 3 games all season, you'd think that the Villa players would have something better to do than start squabbles with the crowd. So Lewis Hamilton, Ashley Cole, Jordan Ayew of Villa, they're my 3 losers.
OK, let's have the winners now.
OK.
Everyone's a winner, baby, that's no lie. That's no lie. You never fail to satisfy.
OK, it's your turn to go first.
OK, here we go.
Your 3 winners.
My 3 winners. My first winner is Richard Johnson, OK? Why? Because he's just been made champion jockey after waiting 20 years. Right. During those 20 years, of course, AP McCoy won everything, and he came second in all those years. Right. And what's happened now is he persevered. He was thinking about retiring a couple of times because he couldn't beat the boy. Yeah. But now he has, and he's finally got his hands on it. After 20 years, he's become jump jockey. I said that boy's a winner. Okay. Now, my second winner, and again, this is relating to football. Yeah. This is Scott Arfield. Scott Arfield is the Burnley midfield player, OK?
Burnley.
Doesn't get...
Playing later on.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't get huge, bouquets and all that, but... Up till now, he's played all 44 games for Burnley this season. A quite remarkable record. Quite remarkable for a player in the Championship to have played all 44, 90 minutes in all 44 games, OK? He deserves a medal for that. And my third winner, and I think this may clinch it, my third winner is Mrs. Ranieri.
Mrs. Ranieri?
I.e.,
Do you mean his mum?
Of course I mean his mum.
So you're doing this purely because I once nominated my mother for being 92?
Not at all.
Yes,
not
you
at
are.
all.
It's an absolutely shameless attempt to try and pull on the heartstrings of people.
No, it's
not.
not.
And it's not even your mother.
No, it's not. Claudio Ranieri has decided that instead of staying back here and watching whether or not his magnificent Leicester team are going to clinch the Premier League title tonight in absence...
And you've swallowed it completely,
has gone to Italy because it is his mum's 96th birthday, OK? So the reason that Mrs. Ranieri is a winner is to have a son as devoted as that when he's got such a huge day back in England where he's going to achieve the greatest moment in his professional career. But he decides, I'm flying to Italy to have lunch with my mum today. It's her 96th birthday. That lady truly is a winner for having a son of such loyalty and compassion.
Absolutely unbelievable.
They're my 3 winners.
Okay.
I commend them to the house.
Well, my main winner from the Leicester stable, I'd have to say, is Jamie Vardy, because not only did he win the PFA, not the PFA, the Writers' Association.
Yeah, did you vote for him?
No, because I don't vote in it.
Oh, well, I voted for him.
Yeah, well, I know you did.
Well, that makes me a winner then, doesn't it, for a winner?
Well, no, it doesn't, actually.
Yeah,
you would never be in my winner's circle for any reason at all. But not only did he win the Player of the Year award because of his 22 goals in 36 appearances, but he also gets the chance to win properly because, of course, if Leicester had beaten Manchester United at the weekend, Jamie Vardy was not playing and he would have been accused of having to jump on the pitch and run around in his full kit and all that. Yeah. Now he'll be able to do that at Everton, if it all happens at Everton. Yeah. Or maybe if it happens later on tonight, we'll find out.
I think he's been given permission to go on the pitch tonight.
Yes.
Not
the next game. What, at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah, not tonight.
I don't think you want to see him at Stamford Bridge.
No, he's been
Maybe see John Terry running around at Stamford Bridge.
Well, no,
that's another story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you keep interrupting me anyway? I've only got one third of the way through my nominations. My second nomination is Dan Evans.
Dan
Evans, tennis player. who last June was ranked 763rd in the world.
Okay.
Right, he's now one of four.
Doesn't sound very good.
One of four British men who's got himself into the top 100, which is an incredible rise. He's gone 600 odd places up
What
inside
number is
a
he
year.
now?
He's around about 95.
Sorry, what is exactly his
They haven't
number?
announced the numbers yet. He will be in the top 100.
How do you know
when the numbers come out? Because that's the way tennis works.
And when are the numbers coming
because
out?
He won the Santesi Challenge title in Taipei on Sunday, which you weren't looking for.
And you're classifying this guy a winner?
Yeah, because he's one of four male tennis players from Britain in the top 100. We haven't had that many in there for a long time.
And he's about the 95th worst in the world?
No, not at all true.
My
he was
God.
763, so that makes him brilliant. And Rafa Benitez is my third winner because, of course, 3 more points for Newcastle lifts them out of relegation because next they're going to play Aston Villa.
But he hasn't saved them from relegation yet.
He hasn't, but this weekend, this is a tournament about this weekend, which you've never grasped. It's not about next weekend, it's not about the end of the season, it's about this weekend, okay?
Really?
Aston Villa next for Newcastle. Sunderland have got to play Chelsea. Norwich have got to play Manchester United. Now, they've both got a game in hand, that's true, but I think that if we get another 3 points out of the Aston Villa game, I think Newcastle will be in pretty good order. So those are my three.
There's a lot of ifs there.
No, well,
an awful lot of ifs.
You've never understood this tournament. You've lost the 3 other tournaments we've had.
No.
You're 1.5 behind to a half.
No.
So I don't think you can be classed as an expert. That is winners and losers. Do go to the Twitter account at the Two Mikes, where you can vote for either myself or Mike Parry. The voting now is up there, and you'll be able to vote until midday tomorrow. You're not supposed to be cheating, you know.
No, I'm not.
No, vote often. You should retract then.
Okay,
Tell people to vote once.
Okay, I'll retract. Just vote once, please, for Porky.
Thank you very much indeed. This is TalkSport. Coming up very shortly, we're going to talk to Graham Roberts, looking ahead to that Chelsea-Spurs game tonight. If Spurs don't win, of course, Leicester do become the champions. Let's go back, though, first, before we do that, to Elliot Cook, who's watching Brighton Derby at the Amex. Elliot.
Brighton 0, Derby 0. David Stockdale has been busy in the Brighton goal at the start of the second half. He had to save a deflected effort from Tom Ince, and he's also had to deal with efforts from Hughes and Russell. Derby have made a good start to the second period, but Brighton have hit back. Dunk with a half chance, headed over the bar, and they've just had good shout for a penalty. Anthony Knockaert going down under a challenge from George Thorpe, but the referee making the right decision. Knockaert really perhaps fortunate not to have been booked for simulation. Remember, if Brighton drop points here, Burnley will be promoted today if they beat QPR later at Turf Moor. Brighton 0, Derby 0.
Thanks very much indeed. And Burnley take on QPR, as you heard there, at 4:45. Alan Biggs will be covering that for TalkSport. Alan, what you got for us?
Yeah, much expectation, much anticipation, Mike. A bright and blowy Turf Moor with another promotion party very much in the air, listening to that latest from the Brighton game. It would be, remarkably, Burnley's second promotion in 3 seasons to the Premier League and their third in 7 years. That is some going. And by the way, how's this for omens? 56 years to the day it is since Burnley won the league title back in 1960. Well, to the present, no team news as yet, but we're likely to hear confirmation of an unchanged Burnley side. They're very much settled, unbeaten in 21. There was a pre-match doubt about Dean Marnie. Can't resolve that as yet, but I think if he's fit, very much an unchanged team from the manager, Mr. Deitch. So that's where we are here at Burnley. Nobody's in the ground, absolutely nobody, because they're all glued to TV sets in the concourse. That's where they're watching the Brighton game.
Great stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Alan Biggs there, looking at the Burnley against QPR game coming up a little bit later on. We've got Graham Roberts now to talk to because, of course, there's a massive game coming up down at Stamford Bridge tonight. It is Chelsea versus Spurs. If Spurs get a win, they keep everything going. If they don't get a win and they just draw the game, then Leicester will be crowned champions. Graham, a very good afternoon to you.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, very well,
mate. Thanks.
Very well indeed. Spurs without Dele Alli, I suppose, is the biggest problem for them. They've not played many games without him this season, but they don't perform as well without him as they do with him. So, is that going to mean it's going to be even more difficult for them?
Well, it's always going to be difficult at Chelsea anyway. I think it's been 20 odd years. So yeah, without him, he's been a fantastic player all season. I think it was a bit harsh on his ban, but that's the way football's gone now.
Yeah. Well, he didn't, and also he didn't kind of appeal it, did he? He didn't. He just took. No. He kind of agreed with it all. I personally thought it was a bit harsh as well, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think if you appeal against it, and then the appeal would have been probably tomorrow, so he'd have been able to play tonight, but he'd have been suspended for the first game of the season next year. So, so you take your punishment, and I think there's a couple of lads yesterday, Fellaini and another Hoof. I think they'll be in trouble as well now, the way football's going. But that's the way of life, and Tottenham will miss him tonight, miss him terribly.
Graham, do you sense that the order of influence is changing at the top of the Premier League? It's so remarkable. I'm not just talking about Leicester. I'm talking about what we always believed us to be, quote, the Big Four. And a number of those teams are fighting to stay in the Big Four. And it's going to open up opportunities for other clubs, similar clubs who've always regarded themselves as middle-table teams in the future, isn't it?
Well, I totally agree with you, mate. I think football's changing. I don't think it doesn't matter how much you spend on a player now. If you haven't got a team, then you're not gonna be up the top of the league. Man United have spent 250 million, and they're fifth or sixth. So, I think it's changing. I think we have, Tottenham have a great manager now. We've got him for another 5 years. I can only see better things happening at Tottenham. And then you've got the likes of Chelsea are going to buy next year, Man City are going to buy. So it's going to be an interesting league next year.
Yeah, it really is. And what about Chelsea tonight? Because obviously they've got a new manager coming in as well. They're looking at, playing one of their biggest rivals in London. It's the end of the season. They haven't, apart from those two things, there's not much to play for, which I know sounds like a bit of a contradiction in terms. Are they going to be up for this game?
Oh, 100%. I think the two lads coming out last week, or the three of them coming out last week, the goalkeeper, Fabregas and Hazard, saying they want Leicester to win the league. They don't want Tottenham to win the league. I was a Chelsea captain, and I used to give 100%, and the players I played with all gave 100% every game. So at least Chelsea will get to see Hazard and Fabregas perform this year. They haven't performed all season, and now they're going to perform tonight, they've said. So, I think it'll be an interesting game tonight. I think it'll be very tight. I would like to see Tottenham win just to keep the league going for another week.
Yeah, indeed. Just very quickly, Graham, John Terry, a new manager's coming in at Chelsea. If you were the manager, would you keep him on?
100%.
Well, there you go.
I think he's probably one of the best defenders Chelsea have ever had. He's still playing really well at the moment. He's had an injury for a little while, but he's playing very, very well. And when he's been in the team, and I don't think there's anybody at Chelsea better than him. I don't think Ibrahimovic, whatever his name is, Ivanovic.
Yeah.
I don't think Cahill, and I don't think Zuma are better than John Terry. So, why not keep him?
Yeah, sure.
Graham, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very
all
much.
the goals as they go in, of course, you'll hear tonight from 7 o'clock with Mark Saggers and Stan Collingwood. Graham Roberts there saying it's going to be a massive game. This is the 2 mics in for Hawksby and Jacobs on TalkSport with Papa John's. Celebrate this summer by winning €1 million. Simply go online to amillionfans.com and sign up for your chance to win.
Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as busy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the 2 mics. All sorts of names are in the frame, like Pellegrini, even, and where's the Boas? The closest you'd ever get, mate, to the Football Writers Association is serving me my sirloin steak on the night of the Football Writers Association annual dinner, which is always on the Thursday before the FA Cup final.
OK, are you going?
No. Very strange.
Afternoon. Are we talking stupid prices at the Ritz? I'm really sorry, guys. I was told you wanted to talk to me about tipping. No.
Exactly.
Let's move on to tipping. You're now just turning into an angry old man. I think it's rubbish. I'm not getting involved.
No, they
I'm really not.
Jay only wants to talk about the things that we've agreed.
I thought you were going to have a sensible conversation.
Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry. Be happy. In every life we have some trouble. But when you worry, you make it double. Don't worry. Be happy.